pick up the plans, like, in that drop-off box.
Uh-huh.
A couple times now Brenda's forgotten to put them out there. So, like, today I went to go grab them and there was nothing there, and maybe that's because maybe nobody was in because of the snow. Do you mail out everybody else's, or do any of them get mailed? I know it's crazy because 'cause I'm right down the road, but I just never get over there.
I don't mail them only because I know that it wouldn't get there in time.
Okay,
So I basically leave Steve's, Nick's, yours and Ed's at the town. And I hand deliver Dave, Helene's, and now Tim's here because they're like right around the corner from me.
yeah. All right, I'll just
Um,
coordinate with her to make sure that they
Yeah,
get
we just
out
maybe
back
need
for
to
me.
better remind her to leave it out there. She might not think about it unless she's specifically told.
Okay. Yeah, she had been doing good for a little while there, and then she missed one a couple, I don't know, maybe that was December, and then just now she didn't have it out there. I went to go grab it, and I was like, no. I mean, I have everything digital, so it's all right. But
Yeah, there wasn't,
a copy.
really a whole lot. The only
Okay.
thing that was like part of the packet was an application just for further consideration in March probably is when we were going to get to it. So you have plenty of time to get that one.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
I might have even sent it. Did I send you guys electronically? Well, maybe not because I didn't get the application itself digitally until today. There's a lot line adjustment coming up that Rick Brooks had submitted for a client. So
Yeah, I suspect that that'll just be a discussion for getting it on an agenda.
yeah, that was it. That's all it was to get it into your hands, and figure out when you might want to add it onto an agenda.
Heidi, I don't mind if you don't mind picking it up and dropping it at your house or something to that effect, since I have to go past your house anyway to get my delivery. So
I mean, if it's not too much trouble, even if you just pop it in the mailbox, because I don't know who's home and when and what, because
Yep.
during the
You might not want to put it in a mailbox.
yeah, I don't want to get in trouble with the postal service, but
And they will take it, and then they will charge you
postage
postage on it.
along with a nasty note.
I mean,
I'll grab it for you too, Heidi.
yeah, I mean, I don't want to inconvenience all of my West Shokan neighbors here, but if it happens that somebody can grab it and even just toss it on the table on my front porch, I mean, if Andy's home, he'll gladly take it at the door. I just don't know,
Yeah.
who's home or what's going on, but that would be great.
Yeah, sure we can find some way to make sure you get it. So
Thank you. Aw, warm and fuzzy feeling.
Dave, are you set? You want to get started?
Yeah, kick it off. Go ahead. We're good.
Okay, shall we say the pledge and get going? There we go. All right. Pledge allegiance
Since
To
to
the
the flag
flag of the
of
United
the
States,
States of America
and
and
to
to the republic for
for
which
which
it
it
stands,
stands, one
one
nation,
nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
and
and
justice
justice
for
for
all.
all.
All right. So that typically, I think, would bring us up to review of the minutes. Does anybody have any comments on the minutes other than, I know, Dave, you submitted a couple, and thank you for clarifying the acronym, because
Yeah, I didn't know what that was.
I read that and I'm like, AASHT. I'm trying to figure out what word it could have been.
Oh,
but-
Well, I
Ashto?
didn't know what it was either, and I had to Google Ashto, so that's,
Is that related to turf toe?
That's a bad joke. Oh,
So,
God.
so did anybody have any other comments? I had one thing I did want to just clarify in the discussion. Let's see if I can find it. Where is it? Well, there it is. In the discussion on driveways and side yard setbacks.
what page you on, Steve?
It would be page 2,
Okay,
the first, second, third, fourth paragraph down, about the middle of the paragraph, you'll see regulations and side yard setback is the words on the left.
fourth paragraph.
Yeah, fourth paragraph on page 2.
Okay,
Where it says regulations and side yard setback. I'm trying to point at my screen, but.
yep, I got it. I see it.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify, because it wasn't really clear in the minutes, that I think the conversation, at least part of it, was that in fact, Olive zoning does not make any statement regarding driveways and setbacks. So that's, I just wanted to clarify that point.
Okay,
So it's not addressed in the zoning, and we as a board have not ever tried to enforce any kind of a setback on
on
a
driveways.
driveway because it's not in the zoning.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't know how we could. I mean, you allow a 25-foot strip for a flag lot. How would you ever get a setback for a driveway?
Right, so,
all right, I'll just add that in, because I did have that you had made the remark about the current zoning, so I'll put what you just said before the part about you saying the current zoning and what has been allowed in the past, the driveways are not an issue.
yeah,
And I'll put before that it's not even in the town regulations.
it's not addressed in the town
Yeah,
laws, zoning law. Okay, that's all I had. Anybody else? Anybody like to make a move to accept the minutes?
I'll make a motion, we accept the minutes.
I'll second. Nick will second.
thanks, Nick.
Okay, so are we at 7:10? 7:09, we've got to wait 1 minute.
Let's take a minute and recognize that it's Groundhog's Day.
There
Yeah.
you go.
So now we're
Yeah.
gonna have 6 more weeks of winter. Mhm. Great,
How do you see a
big
shadow?
surprise.
As long as it doesn't all come at one time like yesterday.
I think it should be a town-wide holiday.
There you go. Oh,
We definitely had enough snow.
yeah, for sure.
I'm afraid it's gonna be a little bit slippery tomorrow too.
They're talking about another storm this weekend, I guess, but
Hey, so just in advance, do we want to, who's driving the shared screen? Do you want to just go ahead and put up the rice?
Sure.
I think Tim volunteered.
Yep, I can do that.
So I sent you guys, I think it was even just today, a more recent picture that was much clearer. So I don't know, Tim, if you,
Yeah, I think that's this one.
yeah, the sketch map of 2/2/21. That's as clear as we're gonna get.
Yeah.
And then also part of that was the email from her delivery people noting,
Why don't we open up the public hearing?
yeah,
Yep.
there you go. Those are kind of the two more recent. I think I saw Samantha on, so I think she's here.
Yes, hi.
Hello.
All right, well, it's 7:10 on February 2nd. As Ed noted, it's Groundhog's Day. We'll open up a public hearing for site plan 9-20, Rice Plumbing and Heating. Proposed to be located at 4135 Route 28 in Boyceville, New York.
Yes.
Want to open the public comment? Do we have anybody from the public who would like to speak?
I had received an email earlier today from Michael Safran wanting the link to the meeting, so I don't know if he has made it on.
Okay, Michael is the property owner, I believe.
Yes, he is.
So,
I thought,
He is on, he just needs to unmute. How about now?
Yep, we hear you.
Okay.
Did you have anything you wanted to say?
Not really. I just was here in case there were any questions that I could help with.
Okay, I think we did have one question last time, and that was regarding the other house. And I think the answer was that there were currently no plans to make use of that for anything. Is that correct?
Not for this tenant, no. Not for
Coming. We have nothing to do with our building.
no.
Yeah, but it is kind of, is it shared parking or there's parking for the other building as well?
The other building has a driveway off of the parking lot, and they would not be using any of the parking in the main lot,
Okay,
except there is a dumpster there.
yep, okay. Anybody else have any comments?
I have a comment,
Okay,
just that I think I sent a visual, it's Florence Schetzel, a visual to Janelle, because I just happened by chance to be on 209 and saw the Rice Plumbing facility there. And I just wanted to say that the signage and what they did down there looked neat and buttoned up, and it was very nice. So I think it would be an asset on Route 28. It was,
Thank you.
was a lovely, well-ordered plant when I went by. So that's my comment.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
okay,
And that's exactly the same sign or roundabout the same sign of what we want to put on 28 as well.
Yeah, you included that with your application.
Yep.
any other comments?
Tim, do
Okay,
you mind putting up that more recent parking diagram again? Please.
Would be the bottom one there, Tim. Yeah.
So the arrows you have here, this is what the the truck company agreed was
Yes.
sufficient? Okay.
Yes, exactly. I put the minimum parking spots of what retail customers I would need and also my employees parking. There is more room to put parking there, but just to show what the path of what the delivery drivers would take, you know what I mean? We didn't want to put any more parking spaces. So if you guys need me to put stencils saying no parking on it, I can talk to Mike about it or Dr. Safran about it too. But this is the layout with the 1, 2, 3, 4 would be the customer parking. The 5, 6, 7, 8 would be employee parking, ideally.
yeah, I'm not, I guess I'm not inclined to mandate that in any way, but others may disagree, but my view is it might be to your benefit to put signs up so that your delivery driver doesn't end up with cars blocking their way.
I have to talk to Dr. Safran about it. I did have a quote for lines and signs as well.
Yeah,
And I'll talk to, Dr. Safran about it at a later time.
okay. And Tim, if you could switch to the application that was also in the set that Janelle had provided, got sent to us. Maybe, not sure which one that is, maybe the PDF?
Right
is-
there,
No,
that one should have, it says Rice Plumbing Site Plan with a joiner, so the application itself should be part of that.
okay, so maybe scroll down. Okay, okay, stop. I want to go to where it talks about the regulations for parking. So keep going, I guess. Maybe, is that the bottom? No,
Yeah, that's the bottom.
keep going. One way or the other. Sorry, I can't drive, but there's a a thing that says, what are the zoning regulations and then what's the plan? And I think the zoning regulation one says 11 parking spaces and the plan says 1. So I'm not quite sure
Okay.
what's
I
happened.
I think
But-
it's
Yeah, I
under
apologize.
page
That's-
1.
I based that on our previous, I believe our previous site plan. So I did not update that. I apologize. There would be a total of 8 marked parking spots.
Okay, Tim, can you scroll back? I know I saw it slide by. This looks like it.
Right there it is.
Right, so you have the zoning ordinance requirement on the right side that says 11 spaces. That to me says that's what would be required by our current zoning. I doubt that's correct. And parking spaces planned as shows as 1, so that would be 8 or 9, I guess, given your current plan, so. I think we need to get those corrected so that.
Yes, based on when I spoke to Mr. Covello, each parking spot has to be 9 by 19. The
Yeah,
parking spots that I put in were actually a little bit bigger than that. I think I did 20, I think I did 10 or 11 by 20. So you know what I mean? So I did, and as per retail space. So I do have 864 square feet total, but I had to minus out the office, storage, utility closet, and also where the water heater is. I apologize, my dog's just crying in the back, which is 730 square foot, which for every 200 square foot retail space, 1 parking spot. So I put four parking spots for customers.
right, and then spots for employees, I presume?
Yes, 5 to 8.
5 to 8?
Yeah,
What?
so the 5, 6, 7, 8, sorry, 4 parking spaces for employees.
Oh, so 4 for customers and 4 for employees, is that correct?
Yes,
So your requirement then for the zoning ordinance should say 8 instead of 11, I
yes,
presume?
I apologize. Yep,
Okay, no problem. Just
I will update that.
update it and send it back to Janelle so we
Okay.
have correct record. Okay, I guess we're still open to public comments. Does anybody on the board or the public have any other comments? We'll close the public comment period. And I guess we can actually close the public hearing as well. Anybody want to make a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, I'll second it.
I missed the little clock. Is it, I don't.
It's
7:19.
7:19.
All right, thank you.
So for Janelle, we're not going to do a checklist on this, right? Just a resolution and,
Right, there is no checklist for this, for the,
right,
Site.
just a resolution and we don't have to do a seeker, do we? Or do we have to do a part
No.
2?
we don't no, she did not submit one. It's not usual that a seeker is given on a site plan. Sometimes you do ask for it though, but
Okay,
this particular one we didn't.
I don't see that this is going to change anything in terms of environmental standing.
not any worse than anything else in Boyceville.
Yep.
Okay, well, with that, then why don't we just move right to a resolution, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So does someone want to make a motion? Let's see here. Make a motion and second that we move forward with the resolution?
I will make a motion to approve the site plan for Rice Plumbing.
And someone a second?
I'll second. Tim?
Tim?
I will just say the condition being that we receive an updated application regarding the changes regarding the parking.
Yes, sir. Will do.
So with that, I guess, Janelle, do you want to take a,
Roll call?
yep,
I can do that. Dave Sorbellini,
yes?
Steve Dibble,
Yes,
Alina's not here. Ed Cahill,
Yes.
Heidi Emmerich,
Yes.
Nick Berger,
Yes.
Tim Peck.
Yes.
Okay,
So Janelle, I can email this over to you.
great. Thank you so much.
And we've got Helene Grant absent, correct?
Yes, she is absent.
Okay. Well, Samantha, good luck.
So I'm approved. Everything is based on a site plan is approved, signs approved, everything.
Yes, you're just gonna have to continue to be in touch with the building office and Mr. Ingram or Mr. Cavello with regard to making sure that any building part thing that you're doing in the building is per their code.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thanks, you guys.
Good luck. We
you.
look
Thank you.
forward to having plumbing supplies local.
Yes, definitely.
I second that. Yes.
Now, if you could just bring in the rest of the hardware store, that'd be great too.
Some stuff we'll have.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
have a good
Thank-
night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you too. Thank you.
Which brings us to Sailor Mill Farm.
Yeah, do we have Catherine with us? I was just staring at her. I don't see her in.
She,
This is
Taylor.
Chris
Chris.
Koenig from CT Mail. I'm Catherine's counterpart.
Oh, I'm
Um,
sorry, Chris.
It's
Yeah, I
okay.
apologize.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I forgot I saw the email. Yeah, sorry about that.
Yep. So I'm here tonight to assist you guys with review of the Part 2 EAF and evaluating some of the magnitude of some of the potential impacts here. So Catherine asked me to attend since it's my area of expertise, and she will be with us at the public hearing. So so happy to help here as much as I can.
What do you think? What do you think, Steve? You want to just walk right through it?
well, I mean, we can. Is Jim Bacon on?
I admitted him a little while ago, so he should be here.
Okay. Well, this is, I guess, for our attorneys as we go through this, but my opinion at this point, and just related, is that the referral to the county is in fact not voluntary at this point, and that is because it's an area of disturbance over 5 acres, which if you look at the updated rules for referrals over 5 acres is a required referral to the county. So just as we go through all this, I think we should keep that in mind in terms of, do we send an early draft? Do we wait till we have the public hearing? What have you? So,
Steve, it looks like Jim is on, but he's muted.
okay. Is he trying to talk?
So to that point, Stephen, I guess just as a point of reference, so Janelle, for documentation purposes, I shared the document that Steve just referenced in terms of the agreement we have for referrals going to the county. And certainly Steve is being specific to that criterion, but do you have that, and can you keep that on file so that we have that for reference moving forward? Do you know what
Yeah, I'm sure I have it.
Well, and I believe Mike Moriello was saying last meeting that it was important to time your referral correctly, that we should refer this seeker along with a full statement of proposed action. At the time that we have the draft neg deck or positive deck ready.
Well, I
So,
think, yeah, I think the sentiment was that you can refer it too early.
mhm.
And we should be careful about referring it too early.
Right, and the initial thought was we were doing it as an advisory exercise, but Steve, to your point, it's no longer advisory, right?
Right.
And you're referring to the GML 239M review, the county planning referral?
That's correct.
That's
Yep.
the one.
Okay.
Yep.
And in terms of the other notifications for the type 1 action, have you engaged in coordinated review with involved agencies yet? For seeker?
Well,
Have you sent the letters out to the involved agencies?
Yes, I guess we did declare ourselves as the lead agency.
Okay.
We sent the letters out. I think we only got one response back, and that was, Janelle, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was from our Conservation Advisory Council
Correct.
saying, okay, and that's the only input we've received. Is that still true, Janelle?
That's correct.
Okay, so nobody contested that declaration. Okay, thank you.
Right. Yep. So again, I guess back to, well, Chris and Jim and Mr. Moriello, I guess I'm looking for a little bit of guidance here in terms of when the right time to move forward is. We can go through the draft seeker. I don't know if what that does in terms of moving the process forward, but because at least personally, I think we're going to have a public hearing on this seeker, and we'll want to get that input before we, I'll say, take our final stand on it.
Yeah, I would suggest maybe tonight we run through the Part 2 EAF and kind of workshop some of those questions, or all of those questions, I should say. And this will give the chance for the board to take a hard look at the purpose of the Part 2 EAF and some of the specific criteria and questions that are included. And then have the public hearing, and then I would say wait to do the determination of significance, aka the Part 3 EAF, until after that time. So
And
maybe
where would you suggest the county referral fits in that?
Right.
That's a good question. I'm not really sure where that would fit in this particular
Steve,
county, in Ulster County.
Can you hear me, Steve?
Yep, certainly can.
The case law, as the board probably imagines, the case law can tend to be all over the place. However, I've been involved in several lawsuits over the years about when the proper time to refer the full statement of the proposed action to the planning board is. What the courts have generally ruled is that means everything that the board needs to make its determination of significance, or if you make the determination of significance, you send the neg deck to them. You can send it ahead of the neg deck if you want, which is probably the safer course, and probably the one that's followed more often, because you'd like to hear from Dennis Doyle and the gang at some point. But I wouldn't suggest sending that until after we have the public hearing, you've heard from the public, and that there's, some definitive written, at least in a draft form, a kind of a definitive written course for the board to go, whether that be a neg deck or a pos deck. I think you probably want to hear from Jim too on that, but that's would be my suggestion.
Yeah, so refer it to the county after the public hearing. And we have factored that input into our process, I'll say. So, Jim, are you on? No, I don't see him.
I
guess.
can
He's
email,
having a hard time
I'll
connecting.
email him. Hold on. Let me see if
I think he's been trying to get on and I let him on.
Yeah, just let him on
for the
again.
past 5 minutes. Yeah, the last 2 minutes probably.
No,
So, Mr. Moriello, you had made a mention that we could not finalize the seeker, right? So we could submit essentially a draft to the county.
Yeah, we've done that. We've done that before too, to let the county see it. And then if there's something that changes because of that referral from the county, let's say the dentist and the board bring up something that wasn't discussed or wasn't thought of, then you can incorporate that into your consideration too.
Just at a high level, because I'm just a dumb groundhog who said I saw my shadow today. But I guess what's the harm in referring to the county? I mean, what does the case law say? I mean, what's the
You
risk?
can refer, I mean, you could refer it now if you want, but if you do that, my suggestion, and we've done this before, sometimes this redundancy happens, especially when there's, likely to be opposition or organized opposition to the project. You could refer it now if you wanted to, and refer it again later on. Dennis and the board may say, we already commented on that, no further comments, which is what usually occurs. But if the board wanted to do it now, it's the board's prerogative to refer the documentation now. My only suggestion is, knowing that there's opposition to the project, would be that we would have to re-refer it again if you did that.
Thank you. And then just in terms of scheduling, so the county board meets, well, they're meeting tomorrow, but obviously we're not going to make that. So then March 3rd.
Yeah, they meet the first Wednesday of every month.
Yeah, so the 3rd and then the 7th of April.
And Janelle, how much lead time do they ask for?
Since I'm not too familiar with all this, I believe it was like 1 week. I had to get it to them when I did Red Alone.
Okay, so it's possible, although not necessarily the case, that we could in fact hold the public hearing and still make the March 3rd.
Yeah, because we're planning on the 16th. So yes.
Right. So, okay.
The other thing too, if I could, I think it's with subdivisions, it's 239L.
Is it L?
Yeah, under the general municipal law.
Thank you for that correction.
Okay. Does anybody see any signs of Jim Bacon?
I don't. So Steve, do we want to, I guess, until Jim gets on, because we can discuss that matter, do we want to just pivot to the seeker that CT Mail has the draft they've put together? And I guess, I don't know if we want to go through every line. Are there specific areas? I know Steve and I sent back some email correspondence that Catherine was nice enough to address.
I would suggest
kind of-
going through every question
Yeah, please.
for the record.
Okay.
And I'm happy to lead that exercise if you'd like. Otherwise, I'll leave it up to the chair to do that. But if not, I can go forward and we can discuss.
That's why you're here, young man.
Okay. Thank you.
Take it away.
Okay, so I assume everyone's seen the documents. We drafted a part 2 form, as well as submitted the notes related to that for discussion, which can essentially build a basis for a determination of significance.
That's a good question. So the board members have seen it. It was part of our packet. Heidi, I apologize if you're at a disadvantage.
I got the email. I'm opening it now, and but no, I did not get a hard copy ahead of time, but that's all right.
Okay.
Okay. Jim just came back in again, I think.
I don't know that I gave hard copies of that to anybody, so.
No,
We'll share it. We'll share it here, so it'll be shared electronically.
Heidi's not missing out on anything.
Is that the document that I have up now? Is that the one we're talking about?
That's the one. Yep.
Okay, good.
Okay, so the first question, the first section is impact on land. And the way this goes is you ask the main question below the category heading, and if that's a yes, then you continue and answer the sub questions, the number or the lettered sub questions throughout. If it's no, then you move on to the next one. So this question is, the proposed action may involve construction on or physical alteration of the land surface of the proposed site. And that's obviously yes, right? So now we move down to A. The proposed action may involve construction on land where depth to water table is less than 3 feet. And according to our read of the most recent site plan submission by the applicant, some areas exist on the site where the water table is less than 3 feet, but all the separation distances will be maintained with regard to design of the septic systems. So those properly designed septic systems will mitigate the groundwater, the impact. So that would be a small impact.
So
Thus,
I understand the septic, but I guess my understanding was that basically the construction itself, the homes themselves are probably not in areas where the water table is less than 3 feet. Is that?
That's correct, yes.
Anybody want to comment on that? I mean, it's probably more down toward the wetlands and the water courses, I would guess.
That's correct. And is the applicant on by any chance, the call?
They are.
Yep.
Okay, so I would encourage the applicant to engage in this conversation where there are questions on site plan design. So I believe.
So yeah, so we have, and we probably should do introductions if you haven't met, or have you met?
I have not met.
Hi, Chris. I'm Frank Dunn. I'm one of the owners and the architect on the project.
Hello.
And
And
Barry,
also, Barry Medenbach is here. I don't know if you can hear me. I know my video's not working for some reason. I'm a project engineer on the project, so I'm here to answer any questions.
we can
And
hear you,
I'm
Barry, and thank you.
I'm George Seafree. I'm one of the owners on the project.
I'm Heather Gabriel. I'm a project coordinator for Menabach and Eggers, and this is my cat Mau Mau.
Well, thank you for the introduction. Nice to meet everyone. I would encourage then the board to pose those types of questions to the applicant directly.
Yep.
So if the applicant would like to address the question of the depth of water table in the building pad locations.
Well,
All the houses. I'm sorry, go ahead. Barry.
Yeah, if I may answer that, the only area that, we have water table coming close to 3 feet or less is when you get close to the wetlands. And obviously, we're not doing any construction near the wetlands. And we do have test holes data in the set of plans that we conducted primarily for the septic systems, and you can see I don't think we had any water table in any of those holes within 3 feet.
Okay. So that addresses question A.
I have a
To
quick
the no or
question.
small impact. Yes?
I mean, I know it's for water quality, but if they're building retention ponds or detention ponds in those areas, does that matter?
Yeah, and I don't believe we have the water table that shallow in those areas.
All right.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board on letter A?
No.
Okay. Letter B, the proposed action may involve construction on slopes of 15% or greater. And according to my look at the site plans, construction will occur on slopes 50% or greater on a small portion, approximately 1% of the site.
Is that home sites or driveways or? Barry, maybe you can comment or?
I think we only have one driveway that I don't even think it comes close to 15%.
Okay.
We've we tried to keep all of the houses and the construction off of the steep slopes. Most of the steep slopes are the area to the south that flows down to the wetlands, and we kept everything at the ridge or on the other side. So we're away from the steep slopes there. There's an area between, I think, lot 5 and 6, where the driveway may cross a very small section of slope that reaches 15%, but obviously the driveway would be less. We'd be able to grade that down. So we don't have a lot of steep slopes in any of the areas where we're developing.
Okay.
I think that's where that 1% came up in that cross, in the driveway crossing, but that would be alleviated. So,
yeah.
So I would characterize that as a small impact in that regard.
Okay.
Letter C, the proposed action may involve construction on land where bedrock is exposed or generally within 5 feet of existing ground surface. And no bedrock was noted within 5 feet of the ground surface. So that's a no. No small.
Ed, are you wrapping a Christmas present or something?
I'm trying to unroll a set of plans so I know what I'm looking at. The sooner COVID is over, the better, as far as I'm concerned, and we can have a real meeting.
Oh, boy. All right, let's go to D.
The proposed action may involve the excavation and removal of more than 1,000 tons of natural material. And the response to that was there's no mining proposed on the site, and less than 1,000 tons will be exported off the site. Excavation is related to general site preparation and stormwater management. So that would be a no to small impact.
So Barry and team, is that in terms of your design, right? Because we didn't get that level of detail on your maps, but is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
The proposed action may involve construction that continues for more than 1 year or in multiple phases. Now there's 2 phases proposed, each consisting of, I believe, 6 months per phase. So there's no ongoing construction for more than 1 year.
So Frank, is that accurate? I thought you were building in phases. Is this gonna extend beyond the year?
Well, each individual house would not extend within a year, but the first phase may take 2 years to build out, and then the second phase, 2 years to build out. Right, George?
See, if I would look at that, the houses being built over several years is an actual positive impact. And if you look at the stormwater regulations, they don't want you having that much construction going on, keep it under 5 acres. So the phasing it and spreading the construction out, I think lessens the potential for impact.
Who just spoke?
Barry, that was Barry speaking, yes.
Thank you, Barry.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know, my computer's giving me trouble here tonight. I don't even know if
you're not the only one.
So Chris, I mean, based on those answers, right? So the proposed action may involve construction that continues for more than 1 year. So first off, this is looking at the project in its entirety, right? The 13 lots, is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
So it is going to extend beyond 1 year.
Yeah. And is it, I understand that environmentally, maybe spreading it out might reduce the environmental impact, but what about as far as the neighborhood is concerned and the impact in having a project that lasts that long? Is that still a negative impact in terms of the way seeker sees it? That makes sense.
I think it's a very valid point, Heidi.
I would say it depends on the phasing of the construction. So is the plan for construction to clear lots and prepare them for vertical construction at once and then build the homes, or are you moving lot to lot, start to finish? You know, it sort of depends on the plan. So maybe the applicant could address the phasing plan in a little more detail.
Yeah, maybe George can step in on that. He's the builder, but I believe they would go from lot to lot. And you have to understand too that, you know, with the house construction, it's not like you have noisy activity continuously for the construction. You know, you sometimes have weeks and weeks or even months go by without any notice of anything going on. Certainly once the shell of the house goes up, most of the work is taking place inside. So you may have some, you know, site excavation when they put in the foundation and grade the site, put in the septic system. That may be a few weeks, and then it could go for months before you had any real equipment. So it is spread out, and it's not continuous.
Yeah, our plan is to do anywhere from 2 to 4 homes a year, and it's going to be from lot to lot, and planning on finishing construction of those homes by December, not working for the winter months, January, February, March, and possibly starting up sometime in March, April.
The time that's the busiest for us to be on the roads biking.
Yeah, I guess I'm just wondering if that's just going to seem like a really long time for the people who inhabit that area, that neighborhood.
Well, the reason why we're only doing a few homes a year is because we're very small builders and we don't have the ability to go build 6, 10 homes at one time. So.
And I'm not sure which way is better. I'm just, you know, having the conversation about it. I'm not sure which is more beneficial and for what reasons. You know, there's arguments for both, obviously.
Yeah, so again, like phase 1 would probably, you know, be 3 to 4 houses 1 year, and we're going lot to lot. But, you know, we would put in a foundation, move to the next site, put in a foundation, frame. So they'd be happening, you know, we're not finishing one house completely before starting the next one.
Yeah, so I guess, thank you, Frank. So I guess, Chris, when I look at this, I mean, please educate me if I'm incorrect, but when I look at this form, it's not subjective, right? It's really just I hate to be as simple as a yes, no, but I mean, so based on the answers here, I would think it is going to extend beyond 1 year.
Yes.
And we have to, somebody win the lottery or something? So I guess based on the answers, Chris, I mean, is the answer moderate?
I would characterize that as a small impact.
What?
Okay.
Can someone mute the?
I'm trying to figure out who it is. Did anyone see who it
It's
was?
Catherine. Franken.
Okay.
Alexa, turn on the office. All right, so Chris, thanks for the guidance. We can move on.
Yeah,
Appreciate that.
and you know, the board can, this is the board's decision. The board can continue to discuss this.
Yeah. Let's. And that's the point of this exercise. So I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just
No, that's fine. And based on the description of the applicant and sort of the number of homes that are proposed, I would characterize this as a small impact in terms of the seeker.
Okay.
With that question, I mean, he says multiple phases, and he says he's going to phase it out in multiple phases. I mean, that's just a yes. I mean, you know, if you're just answering the question straight up, though.
That's correct. And this form also requires the board to determine magnitude. So it's not a yes or no, it's a small, no or small or moderate to large. So that's the difference. So is it a small or a moderate? And that's sort of where the board has to take that hard look.
Thank you.
I mean, I suppose it's all relative, but to me, it seems like a moderate impact. I mean, not every lot is being clear cut over years and all of this, but it does seem like it's going to have a moderate impact on the community. In my personal opinion, I think that's an important
I agree.
distinction.
especially relative to the area. It's a quiet area, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, to build 2 or 3 homes in a year on one road, I don't find that to be a high impact or a moderate impact. It's only 2 or 3 homes.
And it happens all over Ulster County constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, let me just.
We're not
Yeah, hang
there.
on. Yeah, I get it. I guess let's just move on. We're not gonna, I don't want to say adjudicate it, but I just want to go through these. Let's have some dialogue and we'll move on. But as a board, we'll have to determine.
Sure. Okay. So the next question is, the proposed action may result in increased erosion, whether from physical disturbance or vegetation removal, including from treatment by herbicides. So we know there will be the potential for increased erosion from physical disturbance and vegetation removal. However, those impacts are mitigated by the best practices established in the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, the SWIP, to mitigate impacts of that erosion, as well as revegetating disturbed areas post-construction, all of which is included in the SWIP. So I would characterize that as a small impact.
And that would be something, Chris, I would think we would note in the comment section, I guess, to your, I mean, exactly what you just noted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's
I
correct.
believe, I don't know if he's muted or unmuted, Daniel White from our Conservation Advisory Council had a question on this. Can we unmute him if we haven't?
Yes, thank you, Steve. That the erosion, especially on the slope leading down to the Rochester Creek, is pretty steep. And when I looked there last summer, there was a lot of tree cutting going on. And you say you're going to plant, plant things that will hold the soil. But we're very concerned about that because the creek is a trout stream, and any kind of erosion or mud or change of temperature will affect the trout. Can you give us even more guarantees that there's going to be none or minimal erosion into the Rochester Creek?
Well, if I could comment on that, I don't have an exact number here, but I don't believe we have any construction within hundreds of feet of the stream of the Rochester Creek. So there's quite a bit of separation there too. And then also we are, in our plan, we're capturing all the runoff and collecting it in water quality basins, which have a settling ability to them. So if there's any erosion that takes place, which would normally, if it occurred, would be during construction, it would be trapped in these basins and be settled out in those water quality basins before the water discharged out. And so these systems have all been designed in accordance with the state regulations for the in the preparation of the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan.
Yeah, that sounds good regarding the construction. I was also thinking about the tree cutting that went on those slopes to open up the views, from the houses on the Rochester Creek side. And the trees were very big trees, and a lot of them, that they held a lot of soil and prevent a lot of erosion. Is there anything going to be done to control that? Not the construction.
Yeah, have you seen the most recent plan? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, on the slopes where the trees were cut.
Well, the most recent plan, we're creating quite a bit of a conservation area that would be no tree removal. Have you seen the most recent plan where we, and it's a pretty big buffer. It's a few hundred feet thick along the north property line, which is the side where the Rochester Creek is, and also even a larger area on the south side to protect the wetlands. So we're incorporating in the design of the subdivision large areas of land that will not be disturbed at all in the future.
That's very good. We're very happy on the Conservation Committee, very happy to hear that. I'm wondering about the trees that were removed this summer And there was quite a number of trees that were removed to open up the views. Do you, you know,
Well, I don't think there was any erosion from them. You know, so I actually went out there and inspected that myself, and they did open trees to open up a view, and they didn't. There was a little bit of disturbance to the ground with just the equipment they used, but it wasn't. They didn't do any strip clearing by any means, and that area is all just naturally revegetated itself, and there was no signs of any erosion at all from the removal of those trees.
Barry, wasn't the DEC out and we spread the mulch in that area too to secure the ground?
Well, that most of the mulch, that was around the house construction where the disturbance, where you did strip the vegetation, you know, immediately around the houses. That's where all the mulching and that was really done. There was only a little bit done beyond that where, you know, you had some tracks from the equipment going down there.
DEC did give a violation for that work that was done, and that violation was lifted by DEC. I'm going to say about 5 or 6 weeks ago. There was no further violation noted by DEC.
And then
we also provided a copy of that. I'm sorry about that to the board. We provided a copy of the DEC documentation to the board too.
right. So will you be planting in the area where the trees were removed to, you know, to minimize erosion? Or have you already planted?
Yeah, they did, and it was restabilized.
Good, then we're happy. Thanks.
Hey, and just quickly, if I can comment, I know we got to get through the EAF, but Barry, the diagram that I sent last week with the conservation area, Barry actually calculated it, and it came up to 35.3 acres of the 64 point something acres. So we're like 55% of our property is in this conservation easement. It's actually a bigger percentage than I thought it was going to be. So 55% of our acreage is in this conservation easement.
Thank you.
So I would suggest, Chris, we probably pick up the speed on this because we'll never get through these two documents.
Okay. Sure. So number 2, geological features. The proposed action may result in the modification or destruction of or inhibit access to any unique, unusual landforms on the site. That's a no. That question is a no. So we move on to number 3. Impacts to surface water. The proposed action may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies, e.g. streams, rivers, ponds, lakes. So for this one, we could check yes. We checked yes on the form. And then we can go through the questions. So the proposed action may create a new water body. So the stormwater retention ponds, are those wet ponds or dry ponds?
Either wet pond. You know, I'm not positive right now. I didn't do the design. I had another engineer in my office did the design. Let me see if I can look that up.
Okay. We'll go on to B. The proposed action may result in an increase or decrease of over 10% or more than a 10-acre increase or decrease in the surface area of any body of water. So no. So the proposed action is not working in any existing surface water. The proposed action may involve dredging more than 100 cubic yards of material from a wetland or water body. No, that's not occurring. The proposed action may involve construction within or adjoining a freshwater or tidal wetland or in the bed or banks of any other water body. The proposed action does involve construction near a wetland, but it's within or outside of the 100-foot adjacent area and beyond that as well. So I would say that's a no or small impact. The adjoining water body being the New York DEC wetland on the southeast side of the property. The proposed action may create turbidity in a water body, either from upland erosion, runoff, or by disturbing bottom sediments. And we already discussed the erosion and turbidity piece. So soil erosion controls will be utilized during and after construction as outlined in the SWIP. And the stormwater settling ponds will also mitigate turbidity from stormwater off of the driveways and the sheet flow. And the applicant's proposing infiltration chambers for stormwater from roof impervious surfaces on the buildings. So therefore reducing the potential for turbidity even more. Letter F is the proposed action may include construction of one or more intakes for withdrawal from water or surface water. That's no, that's not occurring. The proposed action may include construction of one or more outfalls for discharge of wastewater to surface water. That's a no, that's not occurring. There is no wastewater discharge to surface water. H, the proposed action may cause soil erosion or otherwise create a source of stormwater discharge that may lead to siltation or other degradation of receiving water bodies. That goes back to the erosion control we discussed in terms of the stormwater discharge. That's their H. So compliant stormwater treatment will be proposed according to New York State DEC requirements, and infiltration practices are proposed for the house roof drain. So the potential for siltation is mitigated by the practices implemented by the applicant. Letter I, the proposed action may affect the water quality of any water bodies within or downstream of the site of the proposed action. And that would be no work is proposed within the upland adjacent areas or wetlands, and compliant stormwater treatment will be proposed and implemented according to the New York State DEC requirements, as well as infiltration practices for the house roof drains. And then also the soil erosion control during construction. Let's see, J, the proposed action may involve the application of pesticides or herbicides in or around any water body. And that would be no pesticides are proposed for use around the water bodies. And K, the proposed action may require the construction of new or expansion of existing wastewater treatment facilities. That's a no. That's not occurring. So, any questions on the impacts to surface water? Since we kind of ran through those quickly, I'd like to give the board a chance to discuss.
I don't have any questions. I think Mr. White earlier with his questions addressed anything that I would have.
I'd like to ask another question regarding the water.
Go ahead.
Okay. And this is, post-construction, this is, by the residents who might put pesticides or herbicides on their lawns. Would there be any way to regulate that post-sale?
Sounds like something that would fall in the realm of the deed restrictions they're talking about, but I don't
think we have the power to do that. I mean,
I'm glad you said it, Nick. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that we can say who can put fertilizer on their yard.
But perhaps in the conservation easement areas, or the conservation areas rather.
I can speak to that to the board. There's going to be no activity in the conservation easement area. I sent in today the conservation easement and no build area negative easement and restrictions for all deeds. There won't be anything that can take place in that area except for hiking and running on natural trails, not on man-made trails or improved trails in any way, and only dead, disease, or dying vegetation can be taken out. So there would be no pesticides used in that area at all.
Right, but I guess I look at it as, I have Augustines come to my home and they service my yard, right? And I have to sign a pretty extensive agreement every year that they're following the New York State law and all of that. So isn't that addressed within that arena? I don't know if we want to start getting in the business of saying who can do what around their home, whether it's killing or preventing pests or whatever, right?
Well, presumably if the homeowner is using the pesticides or the fertilizers on the label and in accordance with the label, then it's perfectly legal.
Yeah, I agree, Dave, with what you're saying. I think the only thing I was getting at was that the conservation area does provide some buffer even for legitimate use of pesticides in the lawns.
Yeah, I mean, that buffer area on that side, guys, is really quite large. You see it on Barry's drawings. And I just want to be clear, I think everybody knows this from the index sheet, but Rochester Creek doesn't really come anywhere near our property line. It's sort of running through lots that are 4, 3, 2, 5 acre lots. So, and all of that area in the back, the homeowners can't touch it or do anything back there. So
if you could put sheet 1 up, it shows that better.
Yeah, the index sheet. And you see the conservation area in that. So you see where the Rochester Creek is? It's actually traveling through some very, there's some 2 and 3 acre lots back there, which I think I would be a little bit more concerned about. And then you see the green on that map, it shows that whole buffer area.
Mr. White, does that address your question?
Yeah, and it gets to, governmental control. These are private homes, but I was, as the spokesperson for the environment, I was needing to say that.
Yep, no worries. Yep. So the thoughtfulness here is the way Mr. Dunn and Mr. Seifer have designed this with the conservation easements, that to your point, and then they've to Steve's point, they've put an additional buffer with the conservation easement.
Yeah, and that came from Heidi and you, and then also listening to the neighbors that are concerned about the Bly and the Rochester Creek. So having those, again, we're like 55% of our property the future homeowners cannot touch. The only thing they could do is cut a diseased or dead tree, but that's it.
Yeah, I recognize that's the best you can do. Thanks.
I think it's amazing. I'm very proud of it.
Chris, back to you.
All right, if there's no other questions on 3, we'll move on to 4, impact on groundwater. We know there's private supply wells proposed for each of the 13 lots. So the proposed action may result in new or additional use of groundwater, or may have the potential to introduce contaminants to groundwater or an aquifer. So the answer to that question is yes. So we'll move on to sub-question A. The proposed action may require new supply wells or create additional demand on supplies from existing water supply wells. So based on the hydrogeologic report that the applicant submitted, or the applicant's consultant submitted, I believe it was the Miller report, that can be concluded as a no or small impact. The conclusions of that report, I'm assuming the board has had a chance to review that, essentially said that based on the pump tests and the aquifer testing from 2 existing supply wells on the site, they concluded that the aquifer could support the development that's proposed and the use of private supply wells on the site. So I believe that's an adequate scientific backup to this question. That's the report, yes, right there. So we can move on to letter B if there's no questions on A. Water supply demand from the proposed action may exceed safe and sustainable withdrawal capacity rate of the local supplier aquifer. That will be a no or small impact based on the Miller report, which outlined that question or responded to that question. C, the proposed action may allow or result in residential uses in areas without water and sewer services. That would be a small impact due to the, let me find my notes here. Supply wells and septic systems are proposed at each home site. Adjacent properties use similar, utilize drilled wells, and the septic systems are designed in accordance with Department of Health requirements and Town of Olive requirements. So that would be a small impact. Okay, so let's see, letter.
So yeah, we're on D now. D is
D,
David.
yep.
So I'm confused. I'm confused by this one. I would almost think this one's not applicable, but I guess what is include or require wastewater discharge to groundwater?
The proposed action may include, so wastewater discharge to groundwater. So wastewater is discharged from the septic systems to the leach field, which has a separation distance between the soil, which treats the wastewater, and the groundwater, which receives the wastewater. So the systems are designed to have a certain separation between the groundwater table and the point at which the waste is discharged. So so the soil then treats the wastewater prior to it entering the groundwater.
Thanks.
So
I was misreading it literally. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Well, yeah. Wastewater can include sanitary waste in certain projects. So the proposed action may result in the construction of water supply wells in locations where groundwater is or is suspected to be contaminated. That would be no. The Miller report also conducted some typical water quality testing of those 2 supply wells with no concerns in that area, and there's no industrial or even commercial uses around this portion of the town. F, the proposed action may require the bulk storage of petroleum or chemical products over groundwater or an aquifer. That would be a no. I guess the one question I had to the applicant was the proposed heating systems in the homes. What is the fuel source planned for those systems?
The fuel source is propane.
Okay.
And electric.
Okay. So according to that statement, there'll be no petroleum products stored for heating supply. And
so how do you enforce that, if you don't mind me asking, Mr. Seifer? So somebody moves in and they want to have an oil furnace versus propane for whatever reason.
We don't offer that. The propane and natural gas systems now are far more efficient than oil furnaces. And it's all about efficiency these days.
Okay,
so it's something we don't offer.
Okay. Thank you.
But I think, Dave, the net of it is, I don't think there's anything in place that would stop somebody from converting to oil in the future, but however unlikely that might be, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just gonna have a question, that's all.
Yeah, and this refers to the bulk storage of petroleum. So a home heating oil tank is not considered bulk storage of petroleum. So that sort of answers the question.
Okay.
You know what's the magic number that turns it into bulk storage?
1,100 gallons.
1,100, yeah, is when typically you're required to at a facility, not at dispersed home sites, but at a facility to have a spill prevention plan. So
okay,
you got your magic number there, Mr. Cahill.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to G, proposed action may involve the commercial application of pesticides within 100 feet of potable drinking water or irrigation sources. So there's no commercial application of pesticides proposed. Anything that's proposed is residential in nature. So that would be no. Number 5, impact on flooding. The proposed action may result in development on lands subject to flooding. And while the 100-year floodplain does extend onto the southeastern corner of the subject property near the Fly Swamp. There's no development proposed in that area, so that's a no. Number 6, impacts on air. The proposed action may include a state-regulated air emission source. That's no. Number 7, impacts on plants and animals. The proposed action may result in a loss of flora or fauna. And that's a yes. So we move down to sub-question A. The proposed action may cause reduction in population or loss of individuals of any threatened or endangered species as listed by New York State or the federal government that use the site or are found on, over, or near the site. So this gets into the question about the Indiana bat. So the T&E species report that was submitted by the applicant's consultant identified habitat for Indiana bat on the site. And the mitigation for, well, I guess the mitigation for not interfering with the roosting of that species is to install a tree cutting restriction from October 1st to March 31st. And that's typically what's done at other sites.
Can I just respond to that a little bit? I think the question asks if he actually found the species on the site or near the site, and he did not. What he identified was that there's potential habitat, which almost all of Ulster County is potential habitat if you have trees.
That's correct.
So if you read the question carefully, you'll see it asks if the species were found.
I agree with that, and I think it's important to mention the identification of the potential habitat on the site as listed in the consultant's report. I still believe that would be a no or small impact based on that assessment of that professional.
Barry, what Chris was getting at too, I think is covered in D. I think that does say habitat in it too.
Yeah, that question does. Yeah.
Right. They're linked, those two responses, because species and habitat obviously are intertwined. So in my comment was discussing the species and its habitat. So, essentially covering both questions. So so that would be the reasoning behind D being a no or small impact for the threatened and endangered species, aka the Indiana bat, for A and for D. And that's under the assumption that the tree cutting restriction will be enforced or respected, I guess.
We will, Chris, Barry will put that right on the map, right on the file plat, correct, Barry?
Yes. Yeah, if it's not there already, we usually do. I don't know if it's on the map yet.
Right. I'm sure there's other sites you've done that on as well in that area of the state.
Can I just ask a quick question, only because I think it's going to come up at the public hearing regarding this? We received, and forgive me for not exactly remembering the source, but a list of sensitive flora and fauna in that area that had the potential to be impacted by, the project thus far and moving forward. Is there anything else that you see that we need to be prepared to address or consider as far as the impact on those, or is the Indiana bat really the only thing qualifying as endangered in the site?
The Indiana bat is the only threatened and endangered species listed by New York State or the federal government. That's what the question asks. If you go to B, the proposed action may result in a reduction or degradation of any habitat used by any rare, threatened, or endangered species as listed by New York State or the federal government. So these are species that are also listed by the government agencies, but not threatened or endangered. So there's different classifications of these types of species. So that's why there's multiple questions. There were these species observed in the Vly Swamp, according to the consultant's report, but there's no development proposed or any vegetative taking proposed in that part of the site. So therefore, there's no impact on that resource.
Thank you.
I believe it was a red maple swamp. Maybe if whoever's driving the screen could pull up the T&E report, if that's handy.
Do you see it as one of these here?
Was Mike Nowicki was the,
I'm looking at the Fish and Wildlife list of threatened and endangered species. It doesn't show the lesser. I've got the T here.
I don't see the Nowicki report in your list there. Heather, do you have that?
I
access?
do. I can email it to Janelle. Would that work?
Well, no.
How
I'm
about-
the one manning the,
You could email it to me.
Email it to you. Okay. Timothy.
Or you could give me control, Tim, and I have my, it's on my screen.
Sure.
If you want to do that instead.
Can you just say?
Yep, hang on
share
just a sec.
screen?
It says I'm disabled for screen share.
Yeah, I can't give it to you. I can
Okay,
just
that's-
turn mine off. But
That's fine. I have the report. It's the red maple hardwood swamp was identified by Nowicki, the Ecological Solutions LLC, the biologist, and that was identified in the Vly Swamp. And if you refer back to the Part 1 EAF, do you have that handy, Tim?
yes, that I do have. Yeah,
There it is.
this one here.
FEAF, yep.
Yeah. Okay.
And then it's going to be down on, probably on page 8 or so.
Oh, 5, I think, page 5.
Is it 5?
In the part 2, you gotta get to part 2.
Well, we're looking at the Part 1. We're referring.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Page 8.
Keep going.
Oh, it's 12,
The 12.
where it talks about the red maple tamarack, peat swamp, and hemlock hardwood swamp. And then these eastern chipmunk, common garter snake, eastern.
Yeah,
gray
that's it.
squirrel.
Yeah, page 12. You got it. Thanks, Heidi. So those are habitats, communities associated with wetland areas and the Vly Swamp. So the point is there's no development proposed in these wetland areas. So there's no vegetative taking, there's no impact to these species.
Yeah, this is Dan from the CAC. According to some of the residents, they say that some of the animals like red fox and raccoons and even beaver commute between the Rochester Creek and the Vly Swamp. And I'm not sure the solution for that, but they're claiming that you know, the construction of the driveways and the houses will drive them away. It won't kill them, but it'll probably drive them further south.
Might give them a more direct route.
As long as nobody runs them over, yeah.
Most of those creatures move at night.
Yeah. And actually, speaking of that, one of the concerns is around forest fragmentation. And I know you've mentioned this before, that much of the south, probably the south half of the property is, or the south third of the property is wooded. Can you tell us how much of that woodland you're going to try to preserve around the houses that are going to be built on the south end?
Are we going into this now, or are we going to keep on our EAF form? But I mean, Dan, you can see where the houses are. The tree canopy on those 5 lots now is going to stay intact. The houses on the southern portion are up on the ridge, so the driveway will be cut up to that.
Right.
All of that tree cover will be left. And on the opposite side also, there we were able to push the houses a little further off the road, so that unlike the 3 lots just further west of there where they've cleared right up against the road, these lots will be further, they'll be deeper into those lots on the other side, so that we won't lose that canopy.
Good. And you're going to try to preserve as many of those trees in those, what, 5 or 6 lots as possible?
Yeah, it's just, you see where the driveways, obviously if there's any trees in that portion that have to access the driveway, but the houses are intentionally pushed further off the road in those cases. But again, with the conservation areas beyond that people can't cut trees.
Yeah, and that's for the animals. So good.
Yeah, I mean, I live in the middle of Hurley and the deer still seem to come on my lawn, but yeah.
Deer come over here, but the rarer ones like the foxes and the coyotes, they like woods. They like forest.
And just to note, those aren't considered a rare species listed by New York State or the federal government. So
no, they're not.
Right,
but,
right. They're important. I agree that they're important, but in terms of this exercise in this form, they're not considered in that particular question. But it
Chris,
does.
and that's a very helpful distinction, because I believe we're going to get some questions about that at the public hearing, which is why I brought it up. So even you just saying that is informative and sort of lays it out a little bit, like what we're really talking about when it comes to seeker. So thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, let's move on to, well, I guess we already kind of covered D when we discussed the Indiana bat habitat and the tree cutting restriction with A. The tree being the habitat used by the Indiana bat. So we determined that to be a no to small impact due to the tree cutting restriction. Letter E, the proposed action may diminish the capacity of a registered natural landmark to support the biological community that it was established to protect. That's a no. There's no national natural landmark on the site. The proposed action may result in the removal of or ground disturbance in any portion of a designated significant natural community. That's no. The proposed action may substantially interfere with nesting, breeding, foraging, or overwintering habitat for the predominant species that occupy or use the project site. So for that one, that kind of gets back to Daniel's comment about not necessarily rare listed species, but just common species. But based on the over 50% of the site being preserved as wooded land, I don't believe that would rise to the level of a moderate or large impact, just due to the nature of the project. And it's essentially preserving a wooded or partially wooded environment in its construction practices. So, Okay, moving on to H, the proposed action requires the conversion of more than 10 acres of forest, grassland, or other regionally important or locally important habitat. I don't think, well, it's documented in the Part 1 EAF that the 10-acre threshold is not met. I believe it documents closer to 5.5 acres of woodland loss associated with the project. So we don't meet that threshold. So that'd be no to small. The proposed action, and this applies for commercial, industrial, recreational projects, involves the use of herbicides or pesticides. That does not apply due to the residential nature of the project. So that would be a no to small. Okay, any additional questions on the forests and the questions associated with flora and fauna from the board?
Nothing here.
Okay. Let's move on to number 8, impact on agricultural resources. The proposed action may impact agricultural resources. That's a no. And sometimes I want to point this out to the board. If you can kind of look down at the questions that would be responded to if you were to check yes, just to see what the seeker is getting at with these large category questions. And in reading through this, it's clearly a no. There's no farming practices on or adjoining the site. Number 9, impact on aesthetic resources. The land use of the proposed action are obviously different from or in sharp contrast to current land use patterns between the proposed project and a scenic or aesthetic resource. So this specifically talks about the aesthetic impact between the proposed residential development and a scenic or aesthetic resource. So I believe no scenic or aesthetic resources were identified near the site. So that would be a no. And if you look, again, if you look through the questions, because this does seem somewhat subjective and kind of confusing to a respondent who's not well versed in this form, but it's mostly federal, state, or local scenic or aesthetic resources. So something that's been designated as important or something regionally important, and not necessarily a someone's personal subjective view. So number 10 is impact on historic and archaeological resources. The proposed action may occur in or adjacent to a historic or archaeological resource. That would be a no. And I believe that's supported by the no effect determination issued by New York State OPRHP, the state SHPO. I believe that was submitted months ago by the applicant. And basically the SHPO said they had no concerns with the project after a phase 1A and 1B archaeological survey was conducted. So I don't see any need to investigate that issue any further. Number 11, impact on open space and recreation. The proposed action may result in a loss of recreational opportunities or a reduction of an open space resource as designated in any adopted municipal open space plan. That would be no. Number 12, impact on critical environmental areas. The proposed action may be located within or adjacent to a critical environmental area, a CEA, and that's a designated area by the New York State DEC, and the site is not located with or in adjacent to a CEA, so that would be no. Number 13, impact on transportation. The proposed action may result in a change to existing transportation systems. That would be no. There's no change to the existing transportation system. I would like to give the applicant an opportunity to discuss the traffic letter they submitted, unless that was already done at a previous meeting.
I don't believe it has been discussed by the board.
No,
Okay.
it's not.
So the summary of that letter is that the existing tarmac pavement of the road can handle, is in good shape, wide enough, and can handle the 14 peak hourly trips, or I should say 14 peak trips for each day. I guess I don't remember what is it? 14
It's
trips
trips
per
per
hour,
hour.
trips per hour in a weekday, right?
Per
So
hour,
that,
yeah.
so that would be the peak, evening and morning. So is that a fair assessment of your analysis?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't recall seeing this. I apologize. Can we get a copy of that? Has the board seen this before?
Came through in Barry's package, Dave, with all the drawings and all the documentation on the SWIP.
All
It came the other day.
right, I'll parse it out. Okay.
It came with the SWIP.
So what are these stats? What are they anchored on? I guess, is it a consultant that provided this?
Yes. Yeah, I actually just made a phone call to a colleague of mine. I do a lot of study work in this, that we didn't hire them to actually do this study, but I had to estimate the peak traffic, which is based on the Institute of Traffic Engineers manual. They collect data nationally for different types of uses and different types of regions, and they come up with those peak flows. And I'll just read the section here to you. So since you don't have it, it says the peak traffic count for this development is estimated to be 14 trips per hour in weekday AM, 3 entering, 11 exiting, and 14 trips in the PM, 9 entering, 5 exiting, according to the ITE data provided. So this is is not a very big number. I mean, you start looking at traffic as being a problem when you start approaching 100 cars per hour. And,
Yeah, no, I appreciate you reading that. So thank you. I guess to Heidi's point earlier, right? I'm just trying to get ahead of substantiating that number of 14. So is there more behind that ITE? I guess. So what's that acronym stand for? Institute of Traffic Engineering?
yes.
Look at that. Even a broken clock. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if we could get some more detail behind that, I'm thinking of a public hearing. Someone asks a question. I can't substantiate that.
Yeah,
I'm not challenging it. I just like to be able to, much like we've been doing on every other question here, right? There's some document behind it with some subject matter expert.
Well, that's why I prepared the report. But if you don't.
Is this the report here that I'm looking at? This.
Yeah, it's just a one page. It's very, very. No. Nope. It's on my letterhead. Wait a second. Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah.
And Dave, Catherine looked at this and she was comfortable with this analysis, just based on the limited number of homes that are proposed on this road.
Okay, great. She can answer the questions. Thanks.
Yeah, and it's residential in nature. And I think it's also important to note that
so it's based on 13 single-family homes.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, was this based on 13 or 14? Because the number.
It was based on the 13.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Chris. I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's okay. No, I think it's important to know there's no.
This is going to be a charged topic.
Additional infrastructure being proposed or expansion of any transportation roadway system. So
I guess, my view, I'm a little bit with Dave here. In terms of, is this defensible from the standpoint of the conclusion, it's an insignificant increase in volume. I think that residents along the road might beg to differ, being a very quiet kind of country road, but is there more in terms of this document that this is based on that might support the conclusion that it's an insignificant increase?
Yeah, that's Steve, thank you, better said, right? Because I would reference this as like a side by side, right? So what's the baseline, right? So how many homes are there today and what's the baseline traffic AM and PM? And when you layer across that, the additional 14, is that 10% more? Is that 60% more?
So you want us to go out and actually count cars on the road? To do?
I guess I do.
We did not do that. I will tell you, we did not do that. We didn't think it was at all necessary, but if the board.
Okay.
Well,
Can
go ahead, Steve.
Sorry, I was just going to say, can you draw some reasonable conclusion based on, I'll say, the same thing you did here, which is number of homes, and the number of homes along the road versus just in the development, and draw some conclusions or some estimations based on that in terms of the traffic that road sees versus doing a traffic count.
We can give you that count, probably relatively easy.
Okay.
But you have to look at how many homes are really using that road. Because it forks off the upper and lower Sailor Mill. So.
I know the one end kind of branches in multiple different directions, so.
Yeah, so it's hard to put a number on that.
So, but Mr. Medenbach, that's exactly like, so what you're calling out would be good facts to have for open discourse, right? So, because even though we're going to be listening at the public hearing and it's not going to be two-way, the board would be tremendously appreciative if, even though Catherine's going to be speaking and or we're going to be writing back to address concerns, and certainly this is one that the public's already voiced their opinion written. The more, I don't think we can have too much information here. I certainly am a proponent for less is more, but I think this is one where I'd like to understand the baseline and weave in facts like you just spoke about, right? Lower to upper, and some homes go this way. And then we can articulate a defensible position, as Steve just said. I don't know how the board feels, but.
Yeah, Dave, I would comment, more information is better, but in determining significance with the seeker, we're looking at the questions below on number 13, the sub questions, and what are those questions? So A is proposed traffic increase may exceed capacity of existing road network. So the 14 peak trips will not exceed the capacity of that road. Okay. B, the proposed action may result in the construction of a paved parking area for more than 500 cars. No. The proposed action will degrade existing transit access. No, there's no transit. The proposed action will degrade existing pedestrian or bicycle accommodations. I don't believe there are existing pedestrian or bicycle accommodations on the road except the road itself. The proposed action may alter the present pattern of movement of people or goods. So those are kind of the context questions that this is getting at in terms of determining significance here. So
yeah, I'm with you.
Okay.
And I guess I'm leaning towards the advocacy for everyone involved, and I can't ignore, nor can I would say the board really shouldn't ignore the voice of folks who have said, to your point on D, right? So the road today is the existing infrastructure for pedestrian and bicycle, right? So if there's 14 more cars, is that a 10% inconvenience or is that a 60%, right? So again, I'm not arguing so much, I guess, the check mark of a no here. It's more about, I think this is going to generate a lot of conversation, and I'd like everyone to know that we put forth our due diligence to really look at it. That's all.
Dave, this is Mike Moriello speaking. On 13, maybe suggest this to the board. You can think about it. Would it be better for the board if it was marked yes, and under F, you wrote slight increase in traffic or something, and then make your determination whether that's small or moderate. That small or moderate or large, I don't think it's large, but if you wanted, you could mark the other ones no or small impact, and then in F, where it says other impacts, you could say traffic will slightly increase or something to that to that effect if it makes the board more comfortable.
That's an interesting proposal, and I think we might want to look at that, because I know one of the concerns is, when we say there's no accommodations for pedestrian and bicycles, as David pointed out, the net of it is, because of that, people walk on the roads and ride their bicycles on the roads, obviously, in what's traffic lanes on these narrow roads. So something to be considered.
Yeah, and Mr. Moriello, I think that's a wonderful suggestion, so thank you. And again, it does kind of bring me back to full circle of just ask Mr. Seifert for some more analytics, right? Can you get us a baseline? What's there today? We're not arguing. I don't think anybody is challenging, the assessment that the road is sufficient. It's just what's there today with 13 new homes. You're saying the impact is 14, modeled different way, AM and PM. So what does the overall scenario look like? That's all. And then when the public asks a question, we can speak to it. I don't feel comfortable at this point. I mean, I'll just candidly say it. I don't feel comfortable just saying 14 and then someone says, well, back that up, and I can't speak to it, right? But I think we've done a great job in other areas, like when Mr. White was asking about the trout stream and other things, we could go pretty deep on that, so.
And I don't mean to put words in the board's mouth either. You don't have to say slight increase. You could say increase in traffic. These are objective criteria that we, as the applicant, have to show what that impact is to the satisfaction of the planning board and why it's not significant. So if the board wants to say increase in traffic under other impacts, that's okay too. I would also expect that if the project opponents have a view on the impact on transportation, then they should come in with objective criteria also that would prove that their point, or militate towards their point, not just that the traffic is going to increase and be a terrible impact on the environment.
What if we provided a total number of residential homes between 2A and Sundale along Sailor Mill there? So then we have a baseline number of how many residential driveways exist without really an idea of how many trips are going back and forth and how many people are working. Just a starting point, just throwing it out there.
That's kind of where I was getting at Barry's original analysis. It seems like whatever the criteria that was used for the 14 trips, twice a day, basically, morning, evening.
And if I could comment on that too, this assumption made that, these are permanent residents, people live here and work from the, in the communities, and they're coming and going every day, where, a good percentage of these houses may be weekend homes.
Right.
They're not generating traffic there. So this number, if anything, I think is conservatively on the high side.
Yeah.
But the only thing too, we should clarify, Barry, that when you look at it in terms of full-time people that are going to be living here, because we do under seeker have to look at the worst case scenario. We can't.
That's exactly what we did. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
So I think
if you do a count of the houses and apply the same logic to it, then we have at least some baseline.
Sure.
I'll get that to you shortly.
Thank you. All right, so I definitely killed that horse. I apologize.
Those are
the
good
Better
questions.
now than later.
So does the board want to mark that yes then? And
No, I feel comfortable leaving it as a no. Again, I definitely expanded the scope of the discussion beyond the EAF, but I want to take this one seriously, just given what we've heard so far. So I don't think we need to change it at this point. Anybody else?
I agree.
And Chris, I definitely, I'm sticking with your guidance. Please don't think it's falling on deaf ears.
No, it's good questions. And there's also other site plan things to consider beyond the seeker, right? So this is, the seeker reviews environmental impacts and not necessarily specific site plan impacts. So it's all part of the same site plan review, but what we're dealing with tonight is the seeker. But certainly excellent questions, Dave, posed by you. So we'll wait for the applicant to provide a little more substance to that report. Okay, number 14, impact on energy. The proposed action may cause an increase in the use of any form of energy. Yes. A, the proposed action will require a new or an upgrade to an existing substation. No. The proposed action will require the creation of an extension of an energy transmission or supply system to serve more than 50 single or two-family residences or to serve a commercial or industrial use. No, we don't meet the threshold. C, the proposed action may utilize more than 2,500 megawatt hours per year of electricity. No. The proposed action may involve heating or cooling of more than 100,000 square feet of building area when completed. No. So what's the average square footage of the homes? I read 3,000, correct?
Yeah, 2,800, 3,000.
Okay. So we're not anywhere close to 100,000
Hey,
total.
Frank, may I just sneak in a question?
Yeah.
More for curiosity. Are you planning solar? Is that part of your, as Mr. Seifer mentioned earlier, right, in terms of, you know, what furnaces you recommend and things? Are you recommending any solar to come with the home, the kits, if you will?
We're not. The houses are very high energy rated and, you know, Energy Star houses. So we're not, partly I just don't want to look at solar panels on the roof, but it wouldn't preclude somebody from adding solar panels. We didn't exclude that in the covenants, obviously.
Thank you.
And I just have maybe a dumb question. So we're answering yes, or that's what you're suggesting, Chris, for impact on energy. But then as we go through these, we're not upgrading a substation. We're not doing, 50 single homes. None of those seem to be even a small impact. So I'm wondering what triggers the yes in this section.
I was wondering the same thing, Artie.
Yeah, it's just a direct read of the question posed underneath 14. The proposed action may cause an increase in the use of any form of energy.
Yeah, it's pretty broad.
Yeah, so the addition of 13 homes obviously will consume more electricity than what's there now, which is nothing. So there is a net increase, but it doesn't rise to the level that would be significant or any moderate to large impact, or even, I guess in this case, small impact. So just the way the form's written out.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, impact on noise, odor, and light. The proposed action may result in an increase in noise, odors, or outdoor lighting. Yes. So I think we got a comment. These boxes weren't filled in, so we can go through these now, but we do have the notes to back these up. So let's see. So A would be the proposed action may produce noise levels established by, the proposed action may produce sound above noise levels established by a local regulation. No. Proposed action may result in blasting within 1,500 feet of any residence, hospital, school, or licensed daycare center or nursing home. Well, as far as I know, there's no blasting proposed on the site. Okay, no.
No.
The proposed action may result in routine odors for more than 1 hour per day. No. The proposed action may result in light shining onto adjoining properties.
No.
No. So the proposed action may result in lighting creating sky glow brighter than existing area conditions. That would be, I would say it would be a small impact. The lighting is shielded downward. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, I think that's what was said, yeah.
And
only by code at the entry and exit doors.
Right.
We're not doing any spotlights or floodlights.
Floodlights. Okay. So that would be a small impact. Any questions on that one?
So should those boxes be checked?
They should, yes, yes.
Yeah.
We'll get
You'll
those
have to edit
checked.
the PDF, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mentioned that to Catherine, I think already, so.
Yeah, those should be all checked under the no to small, under the 15.
Good, we made it.
No.
Not quite. 16, impact on human health. The proposed action may have an impact on human health from exposure to new or existing sources of contaminants. And this refers to hazardous substances, petroleum products, things like that, brownfield Superfund sites. No. The consistency with community plans. The proposed action is not consistent with adopted land use plans. No. This is residential, large lot residential development that is compliant with the existing or exceeds the existing zoning regulation. And as far as I know, residential development is not inconsistent with adopted land use plans in the town.
Chris, by the way, did you want me to check these off as you're saying them, the blank ones, or are you going to resend a revised version of this?
I have a master copy, Tim, that
Okay.
I'm working on. So yeah, don't worry about that. I'll get these. But that, yeah, 17 is a no. 18, consistency with community character. The proposed project is inconsistent with the existing community character. This is a no. And the explanation is that it's a residential development in a residential area of the town. And it's not growth inducing. There's no additional infrastructure being proposed, no extension of water lines, gas lines, sewer lines that would induce growth or otherwise change the community, change the character of the town of Olive. And that's sort of where this question gets at if you read through the sub questions on evaluating those magnitudes. So we can discuss these in more detail. I think these two, especially 18, is subjective, and it's often the most challenging question for boards to reconcile. Because it is so subjective and there's not really specific thresholds that are published, but there is certainly guidance on the DEC's website and their handbooks on how to deal with this and reckon with this question. So my suggestion is that it would be a no, that this project is not inconsistent with the existing community character.
Does the guidance go bullet by bullet, or is it more general?
It's more general.
Okay, because
Yeah.
I can see certainly E and F being something that will be discussed.
The architectural scale of the buildings.
Well, it'll be the scale and whether it fits within
Change.
the character.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, certainly good questions that I'm sure will come up based on some of the published comments I've read, or the public comments I've read.
Well, Steve,
But
can I
I think it's also a large lot subdivision. These lots are, what's the average size is, over
we're just
3
under-
acres.
No, we're just under 5 now.
Okay,
With,
so-
just shy of 65 acres divided by 13, we're like 4.95 average.
Okay, so
Just shy of
the
5.
zoning in this area allows for 1 acre lots.
Yes.
To give a frame of reference. So not to say this land would ever support that, but and I think if you look at the project as a whole, and this is my opinion in looking at the project from an outside perspective, is that this is a sort of a large lot, rural high-end subdivision. I mean, that's kind of how I see it in plain speak. So, and if that's inconsistent with the way the applicant wants the project portrayed, then please speak up. But
I would just like to comment on Steve brought it up, and architecture is part of my life, right? A big part of my life, predominant architectural scale and character. Specifically for these 8 farm field lots, these houses, and I have a little study of farmhouses in that area. Like I'm talking about farmhouses from, 1850, 1890. That's where the design inspiration came from. And I have about 8 houses within 2 miles of that's where we drew this from. An 8-on-12 roof, which is very consistent with the area. 2-over-2 windows and the scale and the eyebrow windows. So I would say architecturally, it does draw from the historic architecture of the area, not the 70s and 80s and 90s houses that got built. But when I look to build in Ulster County or design in Ulster County, I look towards these older farmhouses from like the 1800s. So.
Those photos you have are really nice, Frank.
I haven't shared them with the board yet, but yeah, I don't know if you all know where John Ingram's farm is, right? Obviously, diagonally across the road, it's one of my favorite farmhouses in Ulster County. It's Greek Revival, 1850, little eyebrow windows. And I've drawn from that and the balanced gable ends. So yeah, it is a good study, right, Heather?
Yeah, I think we should definitely make sure it's available when we have the public hearing.
Yep, okay.
So that's the end of the part 2 EAF, right along with our assessment, as an outside consultant who works on a lot of different subdivisions and regulating subdivisions across the state. So we're familiar with these questions and these impacts and how subdivisions can be built out in certain different ways. But it's sort of, I think, good to have that perspective as well as the local perspective. So anything else on the form we can run through while we're all together? If you want to go back to any questions or make any changes to what we have on the form right now, if everyone's comfortable, we can leave it here and pick it up at the next meeting or after the public hearing.
I mean, it's not final, so I'm comfortable leaving it as it is, and we'll continue the discussion through the public hearing and beyond, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'd agree.
I agree. Can I ask you a quick question, Chris?
Sure.
For the impact on aesthetic resource, this is not dealing with this project, but if it's a scenic byway, I mean, that would trigger that pretty much, if it's designated scenic byway.
A designated scenic byway, it would depend on the visibility of the project from that resource, but that would be considered an aesthetic resource.
All right, I was just, because we do, I believe 28, this is separate, I just was curious if a future project came up.
Oh, yeah. I've seen projects that have been on a scenic byway out in Oswego County, and they ended up changing the design so it wouldn't be visible from the scenic byway, but it would certainly depend on the visibility, which sometimes requires additional study of view shed and things like that. So,
all right, I appreciate. I was just curious about that.
Sure, yeah, no problem.
I just want to say thank you to everybody involved in this long conversation. It took a long time to go through, but I think it was extremely helpful and informative across the board. Barry to Frank to you, Chris, everybody. This was really, really helpful in understanding the full scope and the true environmental impacts that we're considering. So thank you for doing this exercise as thoroughly as we have.
But thank you, Heidi. You guys are the ones giving all your time for free for the town. So this has been a long amount of work for you guys. And I'm not just saying that. I know what it's like. You're giving up your free time for this. So we appreciate it.
Bill's coming.
I know. When are we getting that raise again that we keep hearing about?
I can afford you guys.
Didn't you get a raise the first of the year?
Y'all got double our salary, right?
Compounded.
Dave, if I email to you, can you share something if that little study I did of farmhouses, is it an appropriate time or no?
You certainly could, but I would respectfully say we don't have the time because we have another important matter before us.
Yeah.
But so I apologize, and you've certainly been more than patient, but if you could just give
of
us
course.
this out.
No. You're the boss.
I would certainly be interested in seeing it, but I don't think we have time to go through.
I'll email it to Janelle to distribute.
Thank you.
Thank you. Guys.
So in addition to that, Frank, Barry is going to send a little more info on the traffic study. And is there anything else in terms of applicant submission that we need, or do we feel like we have enough information?
Yeah,
At the present time.
Well, actually, I would say, Frank, that study that you have, I think we should include that as well. I think, it could help us with point number 18 here, in terms of, what you just, what your research and the aesthetic you're looking for, and your, if you will, the argument that it's, conforming to the community character. So I think that's great to have, historical.
And the community character I personally like, the real historic stuff, not the.
Hey, now be careful now. My house was built in the 70s, and just
Okay,
because
I'm
Cahill
sorry.
and Dibble call it the IBM slums, I've worked hard for 30 years to make this the little kingdom that I have.
It doesn't completely qualify because it's not a 70s raised ranch.
All right, and
Can I just ask questions on the public hearing is scheduled for what, the 16th?
yeah, we were just going to go there, Mr. Medenbach. Yep.
Yeah.
And in this additional traffic information, you want it in time to be able to have it for the public hearing? I mean,
Well,
if at all possible. I mean, it's more for the edification of the board to consume it.
Yeah.
Again, the public hearing is. Go ahead.
Well, I think it needs to be available for public like 10 days.
We expect to be mostly in listen mode for the.
Right.
This is, understand as well, this is a secret public hearing. There will be another public hearing for more general comments to follow. So this is focused purely on the secret.
Right. Well, I was just concerned about getting you the additional traffic information in a timely manner.
As soon as you can get it to us, the sooner the better, but we understand it takes time. So.
Okay.
And Mr. Medenbach, if I could ask, you had sent electronically the 136-page SWIP,
Yes.
which we are having trouble totally printing off.
We could break that down. You don't need, a lot of those numbers in the back, most people are gonna want to look at or understand.
Well, we've got the entire thing. It's just that certain aspects of it were difficult in printing. There appeared to be the two maps at the back must be larger format, so we can't print those. And in the middle, there was some sort of like 4-page document that was very difficult for the print,
So what, you want us to deliver prints to you, paper
We would
copies?
like at least one full paper copy.
Sure,
2 would be more ideal, but
that's no problem at all.
Thank you.
Barry, if you print them off, I can run them up to town hall if you want me to. So.
I think we need to talk about logistics for the public hearing. It's my feeling.
We're not going to respond to anything.
My personal opinion is if you have questions, want clarification on something that.
This is Michael speaking. I can speak for the applicant. My view of it is that it's the public's night to speak. So, I mean, if we say more than 5 minutes at the beginning of the meeting to kind of tee it up, I'll be surprised. I mean, I won't, we won't be engaging in a back and forth with the public at all. I don't think there's anything that's ever gained by that. I think it's better for us, at least, to listen to the public and all of their issues. And that's what we'll do as the applicant. I don't know what the board, how much the board will engage.
we clearly don't want to get into a debate, but sometimes a simple question and clarification can do a lot to move things along, I think. So I'm not against that.
And we want to have a registered list. Like, I don't know how you want me to manage it, or if
Yeah, well,
or
that's
Mail's going to manage it, but
I actually have this letter from Emily Svensson, the attorney, asking about some things, and David, it's some of it I think might directly involve you, for example. And can we make the materials available on the town website?
absolutely.
Okay.
Just need enough, notice to some time to get them up. That's all.
Right. So we've got, I mean,
Couple days.
We've got 2 weeks. So I don't, Janelle, can you put together a package of the
Well, see,
relevant?
that's the thing. We've received FOIL requests on these materials already,
Yeah.
for which there is a charge.
Okay.
And if they're put up then free of charge
Well,
on,
I don't think that we're talking about all the correspondence. I think we're talking about the application materials.
which is a lot.
Well,
Like what do you want up? I mean, the 136-page SWIP, the, 50-page whatever report, other report that just came in, and, what,
well, I mean, those things don't matter much from the standpoint of putting them up on the web. It's not like we have to print them. Right. So yes, they're voluminous, but
no, I understand that, but.
I mean, I think the primary application.
I
material-
can't say that we would really have to ask the town clerk if this is something that is, I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure.
There's
Dave-
any way,
I mean, when we're getting the FOIL request, that includes all the correspondence and all that stuff, right? That
Correct, but it also includes all of the other items that have been sent.
yeah, I mean, I don't know what the applicants feel, whether there's any issues with making.
This is Michael, maybe Mr. Koenig could, I think it's pronounced Koenig, maybe he could assist with putting it on the website. I mean, I certainly don't think it hurts to put the documentation on the website.
I mean, that's fine. We just have to kind of like how much documentation, like what is it that you want to see out?
Well,
I would say, why don't we use the documents that would substantiate the application, which would be their application, a copy of the map, right? Just the part 2 that we just went over.
Yeah, part 1 and part 2.
Yeah, part 1 and part 2.
So we're going to put the draft of the part 2.
Yeah.
Yes. And denote it as a draft, which it already has a, if you will.
Right, but are we going to wait until?
I'll send that tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Hey,
then.
Chris, this is Mike. I mean, I don't think it's a big, I mean, Chris probably does this all the time. It's probably not a big thing to put everything up on the site. It'll take a little while, but it's not, you probably do this all the time, right, Chris?
Well, actually, it's Dave Ettinger that would be doing this for us.
Well, but I guess I'm just saying what customarily when we have public hearings, right? I'm trying not to do anything different in this scenario, right? So the items I just listed are the traditional things that we would have in front of us, in a physical meeting, right? So it would be the things I just mentioned, and then any backup type of information that we would need to respond to a question, we could do that on a one-off. But I don't think we should do anything voluminous, Steve, as you were saying, right? Because I mean, that could be gigs of data, and just I don't know that there's value in that, right? So I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my opinion is the basic application items.
The board is not,
I
I mean,
agree.
the board is not required to put everything up on a website unless you're in an EIS process. Then in an EIS process, you are required. But if you're not in an EIS process or not yet in an EIS process, you're not required to publish everything on the website.
It would
Yeah.
be for the convenience of the public.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and thank you for that guidance. I'm purely doing it because of the shared situation we're in, right? We're not face to face. Normally, people would come into the building, we'd have a table, and they could see what they have in front of us. So
Right.
I'm basically just using the web as another avenue.
We'd lay out the map and we'd perhaps have the applicant explain what they're doing and handle it that way, right? So,
Yeah, I would say, Dave, you're probably right on. Application materials, the form, the updated site plans, and the part 1, 2 EAF.
Chris, maybe, is that something you could identify those documents and kind of put a package together?
Sure.
And then David Edinger, if we can figure out how to get them posted in some way that's linked through the.
Yeah, it'll go through Rebecca. I mean, you can send them to me and I'll get them where they need to go, or you can just send them to Rebecca.
Okay.
Got you.
I mean, I'd prefer to work through you since you're a known entity from that standpoint, but
You got me.
also we need to make sure that it's something can be found readily on the website. So
If it's big enough, we can put an announcement, but that might be a little much. You have your own planning area that has your documents that we have published. So
either that or a link from the calendar entry or something.
that's actually trickier the way the calendar's set up, but we'll see what we can do.
That calendar's a monster.
I hate it.
I know, I can tell. So Janelle, I guess to your point of level of effort, right? So we're not looking to satisfy.
Like the Miller, do you want the Miller report?
No. Let's not create a conflict between what Steve would foil in terms of all the documents. Let's just, like Steve said, right? We normally would have the plat in front of us. We'd have some basic documentation. The public would come up and we would have photocopies if, sometimes, and that's it. If someone,
Chris is going to put together, I'll say the list, it sounds like. So.
Yep. It'll be just the application materials, none of the backup documentation at this time. So.
Thank you.
Okay. And David, this is, well, I guess it sounds like some of the speakers have some slides they want to present.
Okay. If I know who is doing it, it will make it easier for me to quickly get them access to present.
Okay.
That would be Frank, I believe.
What's that?
Frank for his architectural study.
All right, but I'm actually talking about people participating in the public hearing.
I've received 3 emails of people that are interested in speaking.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my other question is how are we going to cue the people who are going to be speaking, so I can mute everybody else. We don't have anyone else trying to jump in. I'm going to control it strictly.
So David, could we have them sign into the chat as they arrive?
Yeah, we just have to get that message out there.
Well, and so part of that message has to be also a time limit potentially. I mean, just.
Yeah. Well,
how do you propose this message to be done? Because the public notice has already been put in the newspaper and the letters have already been sent to the neighbors.
Well, this is something we'll announce at the public hearing. It says if you'd like to speak.
Just announce it before you really get into the meeting.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's what that's what we did. If you recall the chainsaw situation, that's exactly what we did at the Olive Firehouse, right? We sat up front, we put out the kind of the rules of engagement. Everybody was very respectful. We had many people speak, and I think to an individual, everybody stayed within the parameters.
Yep.
Guys, we also have a kind of a list of rules that we use at other public hearings in other towns.
Yep.
I don't know if Catherine shared those with you, but they're pretty basic. 5-minute limit, warning at the 4-minute mark. If you have more to say, submit in writing. All submissions will be read. No foul language, swearing, cursing, no insulting and offensive remarks. Do not repeat already expressed comments. And do not expect a response to remarks tonight. No back and forth between the public and applicant or board. So I can share those with the documents I'm sending to is it David,
Yeah.
sorry, yeah. And then you can look at those. So,
Do we want to, I guess, two other things that I can think of we typically do, we ask them to identify themselves, which is not something that we can enforce. If they want to speak anonymously, they are certainly within their rights to do so. But we like to do that. And let's see, I'm losing my train of thought here. We also like to, I think, state that if you're making a point that's been made before, please just state that you're in agreement with the previous points versus taking us through the same thing over and over again. So if we can do that.
And then Steve, I was going to ask the board this evening, based upon this discussion right here on the ground rules for the public hearing, do we think it's appropriate that we actually make a motion with a vote that we all are in agreement with those ground rules?
Sure. And I think that that's something we should also post with the materials.
Yes.
So
Chris, at the risk of redundancy, would you mind repeating, including Steve's two comments? And by the way, does anyone else on the board have anything to add in terms of the ground rules? Because I would like to make a motion that we vote on it.
Well, what if it's like a substantive question that somebody has? Questions are different than comments. How do you plan on addressing them? Or you're not addressing questions? I'm a little unclear on that.
So if a question is asked and we want to ask them to further clarify the question, there would be some discourse. But if it's a question that requires an in-depth response, we will respond at a later time.
Okay.
That's how I understood it.
Okay.
yeah, if it's a clarifying point, like how many houses are proposed or something like that, that can straightforward be answered at the time, then that's fine. But the point is not to get in a debate between the applicant, the board, and the commenter,
right?
Because then you'll never ever get out of there. So or,
and I think
or
that
all the comments won't be allowed to be shared, and that's what we don't want. We want all the comments to be shared.
That was another question that was asked by this attorney, and that was whether we're going to put a cap on total amount of time, and we have not done that in the past.
But I think we should consider that, so many hours, and then if it runs over, we'll have to re-adjourn or, do another.
Yeah, I
vote.
think we can adjourn the public hearing and continue it at the next meeting, but I don't know that we would say, no, you can't speak, we've heard enough.
Yeah, so to that point, Janelle, we do have other business we have to tend to on the 16th, correct?
No, we've left that totally
Okay.
Yeah.
for this public hearing.
Okay, so, all right, so none of those other projects are merged. Okay, so
So I would say though that we say 9 o'clock.
I was just gonna say the same thing, yeah.
So we'll go 7 to 9, and if we need more time, it'll have to extend into a following meeting.
Unless we know we only have a couple more to go, and we just want to make a motion to extend it another half hour.
Yep, agreed. It would be nice to get it done in one sitting.
It would.
Yeah, the 9 o'clock cutoff gives you a little leeway. That's good.
Yeah.
Any other suggestions from the board or anyone?
Did you want Chris to?
Yeah, I did. I wanted to capture all the suggestions.
Okay.
For me to read those back so you can make a motion?
Yes, please.
Okay, so number one, commenter should identify themselves by name and address.
Yep.
Number two, 5-minute limit, warning at 4-minute mark. If you have more to say, submit it in writing. All submissions will be read.
Yep.
Number two, no foul language, swearing, cursing. Number three, no insulting, offensive remarks. Number four, don't repeat already expressed comments.
Yep, I mean.
And or concur with already expressed comments.
Yeah, they're welcome to support already expressed comments,
Okay.
but please
Yep.
don't.
Number 5, don't expect a response to remarks tonight. No back and forth between the public and the applicant or the board, except for minor questions that can easily be addressed.
Clarify, I want to say
Or
clarifying.
clarifying questions, yes.
Yeah.
All questions will be answered in time. And what was the other one? The last one was,
We're planning on ending at 9 o'clock.
all right, yep. The board plan on end at 9 o'clock unless otherwise determined by the board at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, do we want to make it clear that we would continue if there are people who have not
Well,
had an opportunity?
at the board's discretion.
Yeah,
Yeah, there you go.
okay.
Those are the rules.
Yep.
So I'll make a motion that we proceed with a public hearing for Sailor Mill. 20 sub 10 on February 16th, 2021, the beginning, is it 1900? Is it 7 o'clock, Janelle?
Yes.
Under the following, they're not Robert's rules, but rules of engagement for the public hearing. Will someone second that?
I'll second.
Was that Steve?
Yep.
And Chris, if you include that write-up for the public, then I will try to make sure that gets on the site as well.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any dissents?
So,
Colleen Grant is absent. Sorry, Steve.
yep, no problem. I just wanted to state that I think there's still one open thing here, which is how do we, or do we want to allow speakers to present visual aids, PowerPoint slides via the Zoom?
Would they be able to in person? Would they come with posters or handouts? If so, they should be able to do that in a Zoom.
Yeah, I think we'd let somebody put up a chart if they wanted to in person. Yeah.
I thought you were asking more about the semantics. I'm sorry, or the mechanics.
Well, it's both. Do we want to allow it? And if we do, how are we going to do it? Are we going to do it the same in the chat room? And David, you'll have to turn it on to allow sharing, or?
Yeah, I can allow them to share and disable that pretty quickly.
Okay, because the only issue with that is if it somehow goes off the rails, and we need to be able to. shut it
Seconds,
back.
I can turn it off.
Yeah.
On the ready with the button.
Oh yeah, I'll be very focused on this one.
Keep it rated G.
Yeah.
We're allowed to cut off people for cursing or abusiveness immediately, right?
Yeah.
I would think so.
So just
Yeah.
wave your arms around and I'll hit the button.
So
Yeah.
David, are you just gonna unmute the speaker one at a time?
I'm going to try to do it as fast as I can. Yeah, that's why I want that list in advance so I know who I'm hitting.
Yep.
Did we say anything about personal attacks?
Yeah.
Okay.
We did.
God, I hope it doesn't get that far.
It's, people can get
Be
quite
ready.
emotional in these.
Oh.
I heard they gave out bad Halloween candy on that street, so get ready.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay,
Hopefully we'll go smoothly and we'll get the input that we're looking for.
so Chris, we put a lot on your plate.
Mm-hmm.
So if I may pivot, we're still on Sailor Mill here. So just some guidance here from Mr. Bacon. So board, in terms of moving forward, the guidance is that I'm sorry, I lost my place here. So Mr. Bacon feels there is enough to send it to the county. That we declare that we have a full statement of the action, given all the documents. That we not declare either neg or pos deck at this point, but we do have, the support and the guidance from Mr. Bacon that we could move forward with a, referral to the county.
Before the public hearing?
Yes. Yes,
Is that an email you got tonight?
it's in chat.
He's chatting with us.
I guess Mr. Bacon doesn't have audio, so.
Okay.
So we can
Jim-
discuss it as a board. I just was sharing with, Mr. Bacon and I were going back and forth here a little bit.
Mr. Moriello, did you?
I was
have-
gonna say Jim may be figuring that the planning board doesn't meet until March anyway. They can't
Yeah.
make it until then. And by that time, I would be very surprised if there is a determination of significance to be adopted by that time. I would be surprised in light of what I think is going to be the anticipated interest in the project, but I mean, we'll see.
Well, I guess at this point, what does the board think? I mean, do we want to hold off at this point and hear the public?
I think so. That would be, I'm leaning towards waiting until after a public hearing to refer.
Yeah, because it's not going to make, it doesn't sound like it would make any difference in terms of
Right,
when we
right.
might get on the calendar for the county, so.
Okay.
I
All
mean,
right.
Something could come up that's gonna change scope, so why rush to forward it to the county? Let's see
Okay.
what happens. Let's see what happens in the public hearing. It's my opinion.
That's good discussion. Anyone else? Nick, Tim, Heidi?
I agree to wait.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
And then, Sailor Mill team, I don't know who the head person is, but I guess Mr. Dunn, so, if we anticipate based on the review this evening, a negative declaration, it's probably in your best interest, due diligence that you begin to prepare a neg deck from your perspective. Get that draft to CT Mail to Chris and Catherine, so that,
Well, you may not want us to do that. I mean, I think you got to hear what Jim says about that. Some boards will have the applicant put a draft of a neg deck or a pos deck before them, and then if the board takes their time and considers it, considers all aspects and changes it the way that they think is fit, then that's perfectly reasonable to do it that way. But it may be, Jim is a very, very experienced land use and zoning lawyer, and it may be that Jim prefers to draft the draft determination of significance, whether it's a pos deck or a neg deck himself. I think we probably should kind of defer to what he thinks, I would say.
So I was reading Jim's words.
Okay.
I'm not seeking to be argumentative, Mr. Moriello.
That's
Just letting you know what he let me know at 9:13.
And oftentimes, we as the TDE will prepare those for our client, the town
Well-
as well. So,
Well, I will.
I guess it would be the town attorney or the town engineer, either way, but yeah.
Well, that's the guidance from our town attorney at this.
Okay,
point.
yep, that's perfectly fine.
So,
Wait, what are we? Do you want us to draft it or you don't want us to draft it? What was the
the
conclusion?
guidance is that when we get to that point, which again, based on review this evening, the draft, right? And the public hearing, certainly we're going to hear, different points of view. But just in terms of advancing next steps, the guidance is, when we get to that point, the suggestion is that the applicant begin to prepare a neg deck and get that to CT Mail.
And when you say the applicant, you mean Mike then? I can't do that.
That's why I asked the question, who's the kind of the head of the snake here, right? So
Mike's the head.
Okay.
Yeah, we would have Mike prepare it and maybe just provide some assistance as needed.
Okay.
Is that something then that Jim would review? I presume.
Well, yeah, Jim would review it and the board would review it too, because I prepare a lot of negative declarations in draft for boards, but in my experience, the board will change some things. I mean, they don't just say, "Oh, that looks good to me." It's possible that the board may determine that it isn't a negative declaration. I mean, I don't want to be presumptuous and say what could happen after the public hearing. I think we should wait and see what people say at the public hearing.
Understood, understood. So, Mr. Bacon, can you hear us now? Can you speak?
Yeah, I can. I've heard you the whole time, and sorry about the technological glitches, but I'll have to get my kids to figure it out for me. Yeah. So when we get to that point, fine. Let's go through the public hearing, but then my suggestion was that Mike prepare a draft, get it up to CT. Put in whatever edits they want and distribute it to the board, and I'll take a look at it as well. And anything that needs to be worked on, we'll do that. But as the board knows, it went through a lot of work tonight, and you have quite a impressive array of studies that are backing up all of the answers you went through on part 2. And it'll be good for the public. It's great for the public to have listened in tonight, and they can be that much better prepared at the public hearing to try to come up with good, productive comments for the board, and that's what it's all about.
Thank you. Okay.
So, and you're going to wait on the full statement of the action. You'll wait till I have the public hearing, and then send it over to the county at that time. I saw that was what the board's consensus was.
Yes.
Yeah, and that is that the county planning board's next meeting, from our standpoint, isn't until early March anyway. So we'll have a window after this public hearing, assuming we don't need to extend it. We'll have a window to get it to them. So.
Yeah, that's good.
So at this point, Janelle, do you have everything you need in terms of path forward?
Yes, I'm probably going to ask for some sort of assistance on what to present to the county when it's time.
Yeah. Chris, are you good from your perspective in terms of the packet,
Mhm.
the ground rules?
Yep, I'm gonna just redraft the ground rules to add the things we added tonight and send the package to Dave for posting on the website.
All right. And Mr. Dave Ettinger, you've got a lot to do, my friend. Is there anything we can do to help you, or do you have everything you need in terms of run of show? So, and to that point, Catherine's going to be speaking, Chris, or will be you and Catherine?
Both Catherine and I, yeah.
Okay.
I think I'm good. I got the marching orders. I know how this thing's gonna run.
Steve, board, is there anything else?
I'm good. We just got brought alone.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you to the board.
Thank you, board. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Okay, who's here for bread alone?
Anybody?
Sharon is in.
You also have Chris Smaler with Dutton Architecture.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for your patience. We know it's been a long evening.
Well, thank you to Janelle for calling me, letting me know.
So I guess I'll open it up. We got a phenomenal response from the Ulster County Planning Board. Have you seen that? It's Sharon or
Chris?
I didn't see the actual letter.
No, I didn't see that either.
All right, well, I'll take them. I think it's worth just reading it briefly.
Okay. Great.
So we did submit it to the Ulster County Planning Board because of its proximity to a state highway. Is that what it is? And what else? I think that was the test.
That was it.
Yep. So, they reviewed your plans, and this is what they said about them. So in summary, this is a proposal to renovate and expand an existing commercial restaurant or bakery located at 3962 Route 28. And they referenced the materials that we sent them, and I won't go through all of that. But their comments were the following. The Ulster County Planning Board congratulates the applicant and the town on this thoughtful and cutting-edge redevelopment of this site. The proposal includes many site elements commonly called for in an Ulster County Planning Board review, including channelized access, the inclusion of alternative energy sources, low-impact stormwater design, pedestrian connections, use of native species trees in the landscape design, LED dark sky compliant lighting, and screening of parking locations, to name a few. The Ulster County Planning Board recommends the approval of this project with the following advisory comments, and they literally just reference, the final SWIP, which I know you folks already said you were working on. So I think there's only been one other time when Dennis Doyle and his staff have congratulated us and the client. So we just want to thank you for making our job easier. I think at this point, there's not much else to be said other than let's get the public hearing scheduled. Let's go through the supporting documents, which is a seeker, a checklist on your map, and a resolution. And certainly we need to see the final map. But I'm just trying to be brief here at 9:42 on a Groundhog's Day. Board, what questions do you have? What are the comments?
Yeah, from the document, the final SWIP, the final maps, final everything we'll need. But also there was this one comment I guess I'd like the applicant's opinion on, this advisory comment on the bottom.
All the signs?
No, I'm sorry. Maybe I got the wrong one. The ownership. Based on the materials provided, it appears that the parcels incorporated into the project may or may not have a single owner. It is recommended that the project be consolidated under single ownership. I'd just like to hear what applicants' comments are or thoughts are on that.
Well, we don't see any need for that. The property is owned by my partner, Dan. There's 3 parcels, so 2 of them owned by him, and one of them is owned by our LLC.
Okay, so directly, indirectly, they're all owned by the same party. is
Yes,
What you're saying.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we looked at it and we didn't see a reason to, do anything different.
I guess they're concerned. Sharon, were you on the meeting with the Ulster County Planning Board?
No. I would've
Okay,
liked it.
their concern stems from some project some time ago, I guess, where they had a project that spanned 2 lots and then it was under separate ownership, and the one owner sold their lot without actually explaining
Oh.
the situation to the new owners and the current owners. So
Oh,
I guess there was a bit of a mess. So
well,
that's,
these owners have a long history of working things out through difficult situations, so that is not going to happen here.
I didn't think it was an issue, but
Yeah.
that's the background. So.
If you can't
Thank
sell
you.
a baguette if you pull it in half, it doesn't work, man.
Doesn't
Yeah.
work, yeah.
It doesn't work.
No.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, I'm sorry I missed that point, Steve. Thanks for calling that out.
Do we have can we put up on a screen the latest map with the stormwater stuff on it, or is that not finalized yet?
Chris?
I don't know if I can put up the stormwater plan. I know we did. Sharon, did you submit the plan that we had Dave prepare at this point?
No, I did not.
Okay, so the stormwater plan is in progress. It's almost complete. We have the stormwater plan done, but they're still working out the calculations.
But the stormwater plan is part of the site plan. So I think we have to have a complete site plan before we schedule a public hearing. That's what we've always done in the past. And the other thing is, have you done the calculations for parking based on our zoning?
Yes.
Okay.
In the bottom corner of the site plan are the existing and proposed that were discussed at the last meeting. And proposed is based on
But are you based on the square footage of the building and the retail area, the restaurant?
square footage of retail, dining, and factory use.
Okay, so those calculations are on the site plan when it comes in?
The totals are, if you want the particulars of the calculations, we can certainly indicate that.
Just break it down to justify
Sure.
the number of spaces.
not a problem.
And then Chris, and speaking about your progress in the SWIP, I know we haven't seen the latest plan, but I know that the planning board, congratulated on sort of a low impact stormwater design. Is it still in this vein that we're looking at on the screen here, where you've just got that small little rain garden and sort of simple grading and things, or have there been any changes now that you've looked into the SWIP further? Where are you on that?
So as we develop the calculations for the SWIP, the rain garden that is in the bottom left will be a little larger rain garden. And then also under the employee parking lot in the top right of the plan, we'll have another rain garden is required for treatment of surface water. So aside from what you see here, those are the two, elements that are kind of enhancing that treatment.
And how far are you from delivering that to us?
We have the plan that we can provide right now. I just don't have the actual calculation data from the stormwater engineer, which we should have shortly.
Who is that? Who is doing the engineering?
Dave Ryder.
Oh, okay.
So I guess back to Ed's comment, it sounds like we could have the complete updated materials for the 16th, which I know we've allocated to the public hearing. But if we were to get them before that, would we be in a position to schedule a public hearing for the following meeting?
Well, I first wanted to make a modest suggestion to Ms. Leader that, have you considered a drive-in? Because I think that's probably, we could use.
A drive-through, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
We did talk about it early in the project because the one down on 28 seems like it's always busy.
Well, I guess, Steve, and to your comment, right? I mean, would the board feel comfortable if we had, I don't know, we've never reviewed a final plat before a public hearing. We've never not done that, right?
Right.
So, especially on something as complex as this.
Well, are we gonna?
But this is tight. Go ahead, Tidy, I'm sorry.
I was just saying, are the plans gonna be ready, but the actual SWIP report might not be completed, or I'm just wondering if we have a full site plan, but maybe not the full 130 something page SWIP report, could we still move it forward to public hearing? If that's gonna be ready by March?
Chris, that's you.
I would say we will, the actual plan is ready just right now. I would have to confer with Dave to find out when he would be able to have all of the calculation background ready. I expected to have that within a week to 2 weeks right now.
If we sent you what we have now to look at right now, would that help? I'm not as experienced as you guys, but the plans look very full.
Janelle, when does the public hearing start on the 16th? Is it really at 7 o'clock?
Yes, it was in the paper already. It was
Yeah,
advertised.
7 o'clock, the seeker, well, 7:10, I guess,
Yeah.
as we normally do, 7:10.
I mean, I was thinking if it'd be real quick, we could do it at 9 o'clock after we end the.
Oh, I
public
think that's
hearing.
too.
You're not gonna,
I was
Oh,
thinking.
no,
I
I know,
was-
we
I was
won't be
thinking the
done at
inverse.
9, but.
I was thinking the inverse, that if this team could get their final plats to us before that meeting, we could have a 5-minute conversation that we feel we have enough to schedule the public hearing for March 2nd.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not gonna take long. If they have the site plan and the calculations for the parking, then we're good to go.
Right, because the rain garden is going to be reconfigured in the bottom left, if I heard that correctly. The parking calculations that you just noted, Ed, Chris, you could give us an update, a brief update, whether it could even be via email before the meeting on the SWIP, as Heidi just said.
Sure.
And then if we feel real quickly, we could just do an up-down vote yeah, we're good. Let's schedule the public hearing for March 2nd at 7:10 and we'd be good to go.
Yeah. I agree.
Does anyone disagree?
The only thing we'll have a very large audience for it, so.
That's okay. That's better for the business.
Yep.
All right, so, I mean, I'll just echo my opening comments. I mean, if Dennis Doyle's staff puts a letter like this together, congratulate you. I'm not gonna get in the way.
Well, I really appreciate that, Dave, and I appreciate the support that you guys are giving us. It means a lot.
Well, we're happy to see some investment in Boyceville, so absolutely.
And you make a great mocha.
And baguette or just a
Well, you get a mocha, you get a baguette, you get the oh, what's that loaf made out of? Sesame? Yeah, sesame.
Yeah, sesame, yeah.
Yeah, and then you get a peasant bread fresh and they slice it and then you get it home. And then your wife makes grilled cheese on Groundhog's Day and you're very happy.
There you go.
So now we know who we have to thank.
I mean, I hope you didn't wait too much on the line here, but I think it's as simple as this. I mean, this is really very professionally done. And I don't think there's a lot of questions that you haven't already touched on. I think parking's the big one, right, Ed? And everything else is covered off on.
Yeah, the one, if you notice here, one of the interesting things that came up at the Ulster County Planning Board discussion was the addition of this parking down along the road. There's a little turnout on the road that was not on the original plan. So, in fact, there was a question there, which reminds me, there was a question there as to who was going to maintain that. I assume that in terms of plowing and I assume that would be Brett alone. They were thinking perhaps the town would take that on, but I don't know of the town plowing any other private establishment. So I don't think that's very likely.
We would hope not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll take care of it.
Yeah.
This is easier to plow than what we have now, so.
Yeah, well, it actually addresses one of our, I'll say, concerns was that you'd still end up with people parking on the road because that's what people do.
Yeah,
So now you have parking on the road that's off the road. So,
yeah, it'll be a little bit safer. It will be safer, it'll be much safer.
yeah, I agree.
Now, what we gotta try to get people to stop doing is driving over the median.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, through the grass, you mean?
Good grief.
Yep,
Once in a while,
yep.
people.
Hey, Chris, call me crazy, but I was just looking at this plan again, just in anticipation for whatever you have for SWIP coming. Are there catch basins and drainage under the proposed paved parking that I don't see? Can you point me to where?
So as far as just what the collection is,
Yeah.
so for instance, the area along the section of parking where the handicap parking and EV parking is,
Mm-hmm.
there'll be a gravel trench next to the sidewalk that will collect sheet runoff there that will then is piped under that into rain garden. Likewise, on the eastern lot that kind of runs up the hill, the other portion, that'll have a small trench under it, slot drain trench into a small underground collection area. The rain garden that's in the bottom left will collect from the swale coming down along the north side of the property.
Mm-hmm.
So you're correct in, no, you don't see any catch basins because, there isn't any off-site stormwater to take it to from the system to take that collection to. So we're dealing with it all basically from sheet drainage to on-site trenches that have infiltration piping under them that lead to the rain gardens or subsurface structure.
Okay. Is that?
But that's all clearly indicated on the SWIP plan. So
Perfect.
with that, I think that'll answer questions and I can certainly review that with anybody, once we give it to you prior to the meeting on the 16th.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah,
Okay.
Heidi, I was looking for those too.
I'm sure you were.
That's fun. Anybody else with their trained eye? Nick, Tim? I think we should go for 10:30. Keep that up.
He already became a pumpkin.
No, he's there.
Oh, are you? You're not on my screen anymore, Ed.
All right, well, let's just reiterate the plan. So Mr. Smaler and Ms. Leader, so your plan is to get us a final plat with the SWIP. If you would, at least 5 days before our meeting on the 16th. Janelle, does that give you enough time?
Yes. I would like it digitally, so of course I can send it, digitally, and then you guys are gonna want a hard copy, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
So we're looking, really the latest, the 10th, maybe the 11th, so it kind of gives you a week.
So ideally,
Yep.
yeah, by Wednesday or Thursday of the week before the meeting.
Yep, so that's next week. Our goal would be to open up the meeting on time on the 16th at 7 o'clock. Do some administrative work, jump right into this, ask any questions. So if you could be on, timely, please, because there's gonna be a lot of people on the chat, as you probably heard. And we'll get right to you. It may just be very quick, that we're just confirming the public hearing and or any questions that we have.
Right. So I
Okay.
mean, I think from a board standpoint, it really comes down to, are we ready? Do we have what we need for the public hearing or we don't? So,
And with regard to the hard copies that you deliver to the town offices, I would need 10 copies. So for distribution to the members and for copies in the files.
Got it.
And Janelle, I didn't ask, but do you have the envelopes and all that good stuff and a fee?
I have her envelopes. I do.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And just so we have what, provide what you need, the 10 copies are of whatever the additional information that we're submitting. You have 10 copies of the other prior
I think
information.
it would be whatever you guys are considering your final plat.
Good,
correct?
okay, very good.
Yeah, we don't need 10 copies of a SWIP.
No.
You don't want to read that, Dave? Come on. That's good
assuming I
bathroom
You're
reading.
assuming I can read.
I have to, one thing, Sharon, I don't know. So one of, I believe it was part of your application. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know if Kuzi was on your list. I'll have to check. I'll have to see if I had some return envelope.
Okay.
Come back with not a correct address or something, but if I have an issue with addresses, I'll let you know, and maybe we could figure out the proper homeowner.
Okay. Let me know.
Thanks.
is there, not to belabor this, but is there a process? I mean, if the address for the tax rolls is wrong, I think we've done our due diligence, right?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure where and it might not have been her application, but it might have been on another application, but these people have been dead for a while.
Okay, yep.
And they voted, right?
Probably
Oh,
not gonna attend the public hearing then.
I'm killing myself.
Oh, we're getting punchy here, folks.
I've been up
Yeah,
since 4.
it's
It's been a
late.
busy week.
Time to be done.
All right, well, if there's no other questions, I'll make a motion that we close the meeting.
Second it.
Good man.
Right at 10.
All right, thank
Yep.
you all very much. Have a good evening.
Good night,
everybody.
Thank you, David.
everyone.
David Edinger, thank you for all your help.